It's time for MacBreak Weekly, episode 190. Coming up in just a little bit, Apple cheeses off developers, but they've got brand new MacBooks. It's a toss-up. We'll also talk about some great iPad applications and more. MacBreak Weekly is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 190 for April 13th, 2010. Who's your daddy? Not Apple. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your new account, go to squarespace.com/MacBreak. And by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/MacBreak. And by Go to My PC. Think remote access on your PC or Mac is complicated? Think again. It's easy with Go to My PC. For your free 30-day trial, visit gotomypc.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, episode 190, in which we discuss basically obsessively everything that's going on out of Cupertino. Joining us right now from the National Association of Broadcasters meeting, NAB, in Las Vegas, Nevada, it's Alex Lindsay in his hotel room. Hey, Alex.
How's it going?
Thanks for taking the morning off to be with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I want to get a report, so we'll talk about NAB in just a second. Also here he's back in Boston from Colorado. He was at the World Affairs Council, Mr. Andy Ihnatko. Welcome home.
Thank you very much. The week I spent at altitude was able to make me train for the Boston Marathon coming in 3 days. I'm hoping to have my first sub 3-hour marathon. I
actually want to mention a marathon in a second, but before we do that, let me introduce our third, my iPad. Our third, Mr. Craig Syverson. Hello, Craig.
Hello, Leo. Thanks.
It's practically, iPads are practically a guest on the show. It's getting close anyway. Craig,
I got my iPad.
Do you? Of course. Yeah,
I picked it up on. It's got the first generation, and really happy.
That's a beauty. That's the original. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's also known as
and I found with the stylus, you can actually use it on the iPad, on the new iPad. Just got to put a little mozzarella on the end of the tip.
Yeah, a little cheese, it works.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Apple must have learned that lesson from the Newton that handwriting recognition is a bad deal.
Mm-hmm. But I have been using the Pogo stylus that's on the iPad. That's nice.
The puffball stylus. You like that? I think for drawing, actually, that's probably a good idea, isn't it?
It's, the screen is so much better in terms of the capacitance. It's so much more reactive than the iPhone. So I've been, I have barely.
I got to order one of those. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it's good.
I've given away 2 of them so far because I've been just talking to artists for the past 3 days. Yeah. It's like, okay, I know that you'll put it to better use than I can. But it really does. With the Autodesk app, I'd be surprised if they don't start doing some sort of a package thing where either you get a bulk pack of pogo sticks, or even if they'll just develop a Bluetooth pressure sensitive stylus that only works with Autodesk apps, because that's what people are really, really looking for.
Pogo stick. We should just mention who makes the pogo stick.
Pogo people.
Clever people.
I don't know.
The Pogo people.
They make software too for iPhone. Oh, what is the? They actually make a really cool signature app that will insert. You can have people sign stuff.
Tenon Design.
There it is. Thank you.
TENO.
10-1
Design.
10-1 Design. Yeah. They make a really neat application. The reason I know this is because somebody called a contractor called the radio show and said, "I'd like to have my estimates on my notebook and then have them be able to sign it on an iPhone or something." I said, yeah, this is it, 10-1 Design. You have the application running on your iPhone. You have one of the little pogo sticks. They sign, and it goes out of the iPhone into your Mac or Windows, and then you place it in the document. It's a very clever idea.
Yeah.
I got to find somewhere to buy these pogo sticks. It doesn't look like you can buy them.
I think that I keep on going to stores that are supposed to have them, and because I tried to order from Amazon, and then they said there was a supply thing. Like, it was there, I ordered it, and then it didn't come. And so then I figured, well, I'll just go to the Apple store, and they said, oh, we're sold out. And then I went to the next Apple store, and they said, they're sold out.
I had the same problem. I finally found one in San Jose and drove to it to get it because I was really anxious to try it. and it's really good.
I almost bought one at Macworld at their booth, and I'm still kicking myself for not getting it. It is definitely something worth having.
I hadn't really even thought about it.
Buy two.
It works. Doesn't it work on the touchpad as well on the Mac?
Yeah. It does.
The glass touchpad, yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, how interesting! So you could sign your Mac.
Mini sketch. You also have a little mini sketch. You can do little sketches
on
your touchpad.
I got a Wacom tablet for that, but that's kind of cool. But this is great for the full fingerprint thing when I'm doing demos and such, because I'm planning to do some trainings on the iPad, and I'm concerned about over time, because it's going to be a live camera, how much I'm going to smudge it up.
Right.
So with the pen, it actually helps that a lot. It keeps the screen clean.
Very clever.
I know.
I didn't get to say who Craig is, but you probably remember him from many MacBreaks past. He's also a brilliant designer. Did some training. Used to do. Do you still do the training videos? I know you have a.
I did it for lynda.com. Yeah, for Keynote.
Lynda.com. Notech.tv is his place. But he was the pod grunt and the video grunt. And is that gone?
Pretty much. Yeah, I got to work. Got a job.
Grunt Media and all that.
Yeah.
It was like the best video podcast ever. So now you're working where, at Yahoo?
About Yahoo. Yeah. Doing user experience design for the way we're integrating social media.
Wow, that's cool.
It's moving fast. It's really interesting.
That's very cool.
We're bringing in Twitter and Facebook and mashing it all up. So I think it's going to be cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Greg. It's good to have you. People are asking about Merlin. Merlin's been on hiatus because he's working on something. You know how Merlin gets. He's very protective of his time, and now he's busy again. But he'll be back. He will be back, and we're glad we can use this opportunity actually to get a number of other people on the show as well. So, boy, there's a lot to talk about. I do want to talk about the iWork suite on the iPad. That's one of the reasons we brought you, Craig. But before we do that, how's NAB going? Tell me what's the big now, Alex? You're going to be doing a whole passel of videos from NAB.
Yeah, so we're going to do probably. I mean, it's probably going to be. I think it's going to be split up among MacBreak video as well as Gear Media Tech and a bunch of other podcasts. So we're not going to do them all in one long feed, and there's going to be segments and episodes. So there'll be probably 8 or 10 episodes that are made up of. We'll probably shoot a total of 60 segments on Thursday, and so I'm doing all the research for it right now. Of course, some of the big stuff that's going on, everyone's 3D. I mean, we saw 3D at CES. So what we saw at CES was the consumer end of it, and of course, it has ripple effects. Way down the line. You don't think about things, but like the mixers have to be 3D. So when you have a video mixer, it has to be able to manage be switching 2 streams at a time. To keep track of all of that stuff. The graphics. So they were showing. You can see motion graphics like this lower third that you're seeing here. But it's in 3D, and so the graphics all have to be able to be rendered out that way. So there's glasses laying everywhere. Panasonic has released a camera or announced a camera that is actually it's got it's a 3D video camera. It's like $20,000 and it's got two chips in it. So 3D is a big thing. And the other thing you're seeing a lot of is these DSLR solutions that the people are getting really excited about. In addition to that, miniaturization and stuff for the web. Of course, a lot of what you see, what I went through for the first tour was what the big companies are doing, these huge compressors and big, to do the streams. But as you start moving towards the Central and South Hall, you're seeing just tons of how do you empower people to be, broadcasting from anywhere.
I love that.
And that's the kind of stuff we're doing. And we're wandering around. We had a little bit of a false start yesterday, but we're wandering around with the live U-Box. So we'll be doing some live.
Oh, you
feeds.
got one. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so we got one. We had a little trouble with the battery, and Ustream us yesterday. But we'll be shooting at about 6:00. We'll be at a Softimage event, and then we're going to go to the Final Cut user group tonight with it. And so we're going to be walking around, getting people's reactions to CS5 and talking about what they're seeing, what they love at the show.
So where will people see these feeds, the live feeds?
People can go to pixelcore.com. At pixelcore.com, you'll see an NAB. There's an NAB button at the top, so you can just click on it, and when it's running live, you'll see us there, and we should be there between 6 and 6:30. We'll start broadcasting tonight from one event, and we'll be going on and off all evening, both tonight and tomorrow. So it should be a lot of fun. We're pretty excited about it. And
pixelcore.com, and then go to NAB right in the menu bar, and that's where the live stream from.
That's where the live stream is going to pop.
Okay.
And they can also go, of course, to, if they go to the channels within Ustream, it's just PXE NAB 2010. So they can look at it there too, and it's kind of fun. The box is a lot of fun. It gets a lot of. I'm sure you got a lot of attention at South by Southwest, but let me tell you, you get a lot of attention on that boxes at NAB because everyone's like, "What is that?
How are you doing it? What are you doing?" Yeah.
And so, and there's other people coming out with boxes like that. There's a lot of miniaturized switchers. So the integrated graphics switchers, I saw one that we're gonna cover, which is 8 SDI channels in HD or SD. It has all the graphics all built in. It's a portable box. You can just close it up. Yeah.
How portable?
It's like the size. I think it's close to carry-on. I'm not sure if it's exactly carry-on size, but it's literally you open it up, plug everything in the back, and hit go.
How much?
20. Well, this SD version is 21,000, and the HD version is 27,000.
Anyway, I don't want to get too much into the broadcast stuff because I know that most of our audience is not into that, but there will be lots to talk about tonight at pixelcore.com, Tuesday night.
And a lot of stuff, by the way, a lot of coverage of course, CS5, which got released this week.
Yeah, we're going to get to that too because we will cover. And the new MacBooks are out, finally. And we've got to talk about iPhone 4.0. We talked a little bit about the launch on Twit, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it on MacBreak Weekly. And I'm going to say right now, mea culpa. I was wrong. I said there will never be multitasking.
It's multi-functions.
Maybe I was right. We'll find out in just a little bit. Let me take a break. We're going to come back. I do want to talk about those new MacBooks. No, I did not buy a MacBook. It just happened.
I was wondering about that.
Without any cooperation on my part. I'm thrilled. I knew.
It's like the sub shop. When you buy 10 before the announcement, you get the first one after the announcement.
Yeah, you ought to. But I do want to mention our friends at Citrix, the folks who do the great Go to My PC. Great remote access product that works on the Mac as well as on the PC. In fact, you can even visit Macs from a PC or PCs from a Mac. Completely flexible. And you can try it free right now by going to gotomypc.com/MacBreak. Here's how it works. You go to the PC or Mac you want to make the remote host. Most people do it with their office computer, but maybe it's your home computer. You open up your web browser, and you just go to gotomypc.com/MacBreak. That's it. I mean, it really is simple. It'll take you about a minute to install. I don't know exactly what they're doing. I think it's a little Java stub, because it downloads like instantly. I mean, it couldn't be faster. And now you're done. There's no router configuration, DMZing, firewall, port forwarding, nothing like that. It uses NAT traversal and very sophisticated technologies to make it happen automatically. 128-bit SSL encryption as well. And now you got it free for 30 days. So when you want to access this computer, you go to any other computer, PC or Mac. You open up the web browser on that computer, and you go to gotomypc.com. And you'll see there's a link right there. Visit another computer, something like that. You log onto your account. What am I saying? I only do this every day. You log onto your account with your email and your secure password. You click the connect button, and boom, you're in. You are now on your computer, Mac or PC, seeing the other remote computer. And I'm not just seeing it. You're working with it. You can run programs. You can access email, send and receive. You can access any network resource. You can even drag and drop files from one computer to the other. Simply, easily, and most importantly, securely. That is something that is difficult for remote access products to say, but not for Go to My PC. I've always been 100% secure using state-of-the-art SSL. Go to mypc.com/MacBreak. Try it free today. It is more than fun, more than a convenience. It is a must-have utility. Go to mypc.com/MacBreak. So they did it. They did it this morning, early in the morning. The Apple Store went down. This is exactly what the rumor mongers were saying, in fact, that it would happen today. And prices were exactly what, was it Mac Rumors had? Mm-hmm. There was a leaked price list from one of the Mac resellers. So here we have them, the new laptops. Now, a surprise. No update for the $1,000 MacBook. That's the same. No update, really a surprise, for the MacBook Air, which is really long in the tooth, and I don't think after this anybody's going to buy it ever again.
Right.
But the MacBook Pros are looking sweet, except another surprise, the i5 and the i7 are only in the 15 and 17 inches. The 13-inch gets the Core 2 still stuck with it. It's a faster Core 2 and a faster bus, I believe, 1066 megahertz bus, the gigahertz bus. But better video, much better video, the 320M GeForce graphics. But here's the thing that makes me want the 13, even though it's still a Core 2. 10-hour battery life, they claim.
Aren't they claiming that for most of them there? I mean, it's pretty...
No, 8 hours for the 8 to 9 for the 15-inch and the 17-inch. The 17, by the way, is not an i7. It's an i5. So the 17 isn't really the workhorse. If you want the fastest laptop Apple makes, you're going to get a 15-inch, believe it or not.
That makes sense to me.
Does
the
it?
17-inch, I think you can do a $200 upgrade to the 17-inch to move it to i7.
Oh, yeah, I should say there's BTO options, of course. What am I thinking?
Yeah.
There's an i7 BTO. That's not bad. $200, that's not bad. 8 gigs of RAM for $400. Thank you, Apple. Never the most affordable. They are putting solid-state drives in at a fairly normal premium, 128 gigs for $200, 256 for $650, and if you want a 512 gigabyte solid-state drive, it's a mere $1,300.
I'm definitely decided that my next install, I'm just been putting off trying to rebuild my computer from scratch. But my next install is definitely going to be with an SSID.
Oh,
I don't know.
SSD, yeah, no. There's no reason at this point. And I have an SSD that I put in after the fact in my 15, my old unibody 15, and I couldn't go back to a non-solid state drive.
Yeah,
I just couldn't.
Do they have any durability issues, Alex?
Not that I can tell, and I've been talking to. We have we do a PC hardware show this week in computer hardware, and there's a hardware expert from PC Perspective, Alan Malventano, who's great, and the king of SSDs. And he says, as far as we can tell, he's been testing them for a long time. There's not any. The life expectancy is the same or better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know what drives. I would hope that Apple, for the price they're charging, is using the premium Intel drives, X25M. I bet it's not.
Oh, no.
But
we'll wait for someone to break one
higher
down,
resolution screen, too.
Yeah, I like that BTO option.
That's new.
Yeah, then that's in the 15 only.
15, yeah.
Or maybe the 17, too. I didn't see it. Let me see.
Yeah, 1540 by 900.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
What would you get that for?
Yeah.
It's not. No, it's by 1050. It's isn't it? Oh, let me see.
On 15-inch, the highest supported resolution is 1440 by 900.
900. Oh, and then on the 17, you can go 1920 by 1200, or no, I guess that's it. That's your choice.
No, on the 15, you can get a 1680 by 1050.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay.
I'm in the store now looking at it.
So if you go to the high-end 15, you can buy...
That's a lot of pixel density.
It's not... You know what's sad? It's not quite 1080p. It's like 30 pixels short.
I think that I would argue that at the size of the screen, a 15-inch screen, you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between 1080p and 720p. It just doesn't resolve really that well. I mean, they probably look very similar. You need a lot more screen than one thinks to really...
It's only $100 more to get 1680 by 1050. So graphics guys, why would I get the lower res screen?
You wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
But the thing is that all of this stuff stacks up as costs for Apple. So what they're doing is they keep the cost down so people don't complain about getting, that Apple is so expensive. Is what they do is they give you these low prices and then they let you build to order. And by the time you build what you really wanted, you end up spending another $1,000.
$3,000. So,
but they don't want to have that as the base price because that's the. But you definitely want to go in and configure these because they are really kind of minimized.
They did keep the base prices close to the previous price. I think it's up 100 on the low end and down 100 on the high end. So they're really right in the same price as usual with Apple. They try to give you more for the same amount of money, not more for less, not less for more for the same. So memory, do we go to 8 gigs, children?
I always put as much RAM. One of the fastest ways to accelerate the speed of your computer is RAM. And so...
All right, so I'm going to put 8 gigs in here. 256 gig solid state drive, right? I'm not going to spend that. I mean, I'm almost tempted just to go with 128. I'll just go with 128. Got to get the 1680 by 1050 glossy, though. Glossy or anti-glare?
Anti-glare.
Anti-glare.
I like glossy, so it's 2-2 on that.
but really, are you spending that much money on this hugely powerful computer with this huge display?
And I'm going to have 128 gigabytes of storage, so I can have one Photoshop app and almost 4 movies.
Like, no.
I got an iPad for the movies. I'm not buying this anyway. Okay, so I'm just playing. So you're saying what? Get the spinning drive?
I'm saying unless you can afford the big ass SSD, get yourself a half terabyte mechanical drive and just back the damn thing up.
You can for $50 more get 7,200 RPMs.
There you go.
And just back it up.
Just back it up.
Just back it up.
I'm not as big of a fan of SSDs on laptops as some other people are.
Oh, I
am. Because the money is just not there. I would much rather have a mechanical hard drive and 4 days in Maui than have the SSD. It's just a hell of a lot more.
So here it is. I've configured it for 8 gigs. I listened to Andy and only bumped it to the 7,200 RPM spinning drive. I have put in the high-res anti-glare widescreen 1680 by 1050 display. That's it. Just a few upgrades. And what have I got it to? $27.99.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
does that concern anybody else? Because I was talking to somebody who was showing me his just super duper gaming PC that could probably be close to those specifications, and he paid like $1,200 for it.
But it's running Windows 7.
It's running Windows 7, but it's running it hella fast, and he could also run probably the CS5 apps just as fast on it.
Andy, would you like to be on Windows Weekly? It can be arranged.
I was about to say something really rude.
Okay, good. I'm glad you didn't.
Let's see. The Windows Weekly probably has a much wider audience, being 80% of the market share. Will I get paid more for it? Maybe. I don't know.
You might.
It's just that.
Are you just a money grubber, Andy? Is that all you care about? Have you no soul, my friend?
I'm a freelance journalist in a rapidly collapsing print market. If there were money out there to grub, I would be grubbing it. No, it's something. I mean, there's an economy that does well below $1,000. We bought my aunt a MacBook, her first Mac, just a few weeks ago, and for $1,000, you're definitely in there. They're paying a couple $100 premium, and as I explained it to my aunt, this is the cheapest Mac that Apple makes, but it's still the equivalent of a premium Windows notebook, and you could sort of sell that idea. That's only a couple $100 more than what you'd be spending on the Windows side. But when you're starting to say, yes, you're going to be spending an extra $800 to $900 for that added level of performance over what you would get on a Windows 7 notebook, and now Windows 7, be fair, be honest, is not the equal of Mac OS, but it's definitely a very, very competitive, very, very easy to use, and very reliable operating system. So it just worries me that when Apple does the speed bump to these things, it's always, well, you can almost build to order one for a little less than $1,800. If you just make sure that you just, they'll just give you they'll have you hold out your hands and they'll just pour silica into your hands, and you have to sort of mash the apps
Make
together.
it yourself. Build your own, not build to order. Build your own.
You will notice that the star of the show is still the star of the show. If you go to apple.com, the front page thing is still the iPad. You have to click into a second page and then look carefully in the middle of that page to notice that, oh, wait, is that the word new next to MacBooks?
Oh, there it is. Oh, this little thing here.
Well, I think that's representative of that's probably representative of the revenue being generated by those apps' perspective.
I feel relieved, though, because I was a little concerned. Remember, we've talked a little bit about maybe Apple's going to turn its back on the desktops and OS X. And I realized there's the only one way you can develop for the iPhone now,
right,
is with a Mac desktop. So at least I think they'll keep those going just for the developers.
So they're continuing the fine tradition of having the Mac be like the Lisa was with the Macintosh.
Right.
So we're about 2 years away from putting this thing in a landfill in Orem, Utah.
What about now? See, I got to say, what about going with a 13 because of that improved battery life? 10 hours. Do you think now? In the past, Apple has always, this is a really interesting thing, the iPad has completely changed. The past, Apple's always, like every other company, highly inflated the battery life. The iPad, everybody's shocked, actually gets sometimes better battery life than they said. Do you think they've set a new standard and now we can actually expect 10 hours from the 13-inch?
I think so. I've had some experience with my aunt's new MacBook, and I'm amazed at it's one of those things that the salesperson at the Apple Store had to correct me on, because I was saying, 5 or 6 hours, and they're saying, this is one of the new ones. You'll definitely get 9 or 10. I think that definitely ups the ante. But another thing, where at least in the marketing materials for most Windows notebooks, things like netbooks and things like the less expensive models that are being marketed towards students are also advertising 6, 7, 8, 9, and even 10 hours of battery life.
One of our chat room folks put together a buy list for the PC side. I think they're all saying, well, you could just Hackintosh a lesser laptop and get the same specs for a lot less. Although he put together a duplicate of a Mac Pro with a Xeon E5520, et cetera, running Windows 7, and it's about half as much, $1,771 compared to $3,542.
Yeah, exactly, Craig. I start to sort of lose my confidence the more you spend on a Hackintosh. A $350 Dell Mini 10V converted to a Macintosh is still a great buy, still a great deal if you need like a real notebook with a keyboard and stuff. I don't know if I'd spend $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 on something that could just go poof.
You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah.
And on the battery life question on the 13-inch, I'd kind of be surprised. There I am again, the iPad.
I'm trying to be focus, Leo. Focus.
But my farm it needs help. It's
Oh, Leo, you need help.
You know what? I want to fight fire with fire. I'm putting MLB 10 on this one. I'm going to watch the damn Red Sox game.
I got to say, but then we'll let you talk, Craig. Yeah. MLB, I bought it for the Android. And I did not want to buy it for the iPad, but you know what? It's so freaking awesome.
Yes.
That I just had to.
Almost ready to buy the TV option just to make it that much awesomer.
You could put TV on this too, video on it?
You can get live video. That's an additional subscription, but you can basically turn this into your mobile, just mobile baseball, just battle station.
I think I'm going to watch the Yankees game right now. I mean, it's practically video because you get the play-by-play and all of that stuff. And
go for a touchdown, Leo.
Yeah, it's like watching like EA baseball, only it's being played by professional baseball players.
I want to take this to the game and watch the pitches go across the plate and everything. I mean, because baseball geeks really love all this extra stats and information, and it's all here. You can see everything that's going on right here. Anyway, I'm sorry, Craig. You were going to talk about something of actual interest. Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking of the battery life claims on the 13-inch.
Did you say batter? Hey, batter?
Hey, battery life. And I think on a laptop, it's really does go into the it depends question.
Right.
I think the interesting thing about the iPad is there's not great differences in the processing power given the limitations of the platform. So you can sort of predict this long battery and the fact that the thing is practically one big battery with a little electronics, as opposed to the laptop where, if what you do really does affect the battery in a much different way. And you can do so much more on the laptop than you can on the iPad.
Well, and I have to admit, my expectation of my internal battery is about 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
So even 5 would be good.
Well, if it did 5, I admit mine's turned up to high performance, use the big graphics chip, and then I'm using it for graphics and putting stuff in.
So I'm going to wait. I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see what the real battery life is. But if it really were 10 hours with reasonable usage.
And I have to say that my reaction to it is that I have this HyperMac, my HyperMac battery, which is, I got the kind of the second from the biggest one that'll add 17 hours to it. And it just sits in the bottom of my bag, and it's got a little thing that plugs into my power, and so when I'm traveling, I don't really feel it. I don't really think about it. I don't use it that often. I find plugs whenever I can find them, but if I need to, I'm portable for at least a day, without having my battery have to last that long. So I've become kind of insensitive to it has to have a reasonable amount of battery power, but it doesn't have to be any longer. I mean, for me, if it was 3 hours or 3.5 hours, it'd be fine. But it doesn't need to be any more than that because I have other solutions.
I'm starting to feel a little bifurcation, too, by the way. I don't feel the pressure to buy a notebook. I've got an iPad, and I think that I'm wondering if the iPad may cut a little bit into the sales of the new notebooks.
I think it's sliding the category down a little bit. Like I have a 13-inch there.
I got to fix those buttons.
I've got a 13-inch MacBook Pro now, and I really like the portability of it as opposed to 15, which I've always had. But I'm paying the price with the slower graphics card and not quite the performance that I would want for doing real video production. But now that I've got the iPad, I'm looking at my next one. I might not even get a notebook again. I might just get an iMac that's powerful enough.
Well, and I have to admit, I've been moving towards thinking of getting the 17-inch as a replacement, which I said I would never do, mostly because I need the express card slot that's in the side of the 17-inch to interface with some of our tools. And I feel like if I'm just going to be walking around and I want portability, I'm going to be using my iPad. And if I'm going to be doing production on set, then I need something that's a portable workhorse that really does all the things that I need. So I'm kind of just it is kind of just completely splitting those. There's not an in between. Like if I'm just going to walk around, I really have been moving to my iPad very quickly and been pretty happy. I wish I could do all my keynote presentations on it. I tried. I did. I ended up doing one because there was only one that I had out of the 4 that didn't have any video in it. And,
it won't do video.
It will.
Play. Oh, will it? Do you have to build it on? Can you import the video? Do you have to? I couldn't figure out a way to get it into Keynote.
That part I haven't looked at yet. Still looking into all the parts.
All right, save this because this is a good conversation because Craig is the iWork king, and the key, and even more so a Keynote king. So good. This is good. I want to have this conversation. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. There is a lot to talk about, including a lot of upset over Apple's new restrictions in iPhone 4.0. My question, somebody was asking this, I think at Hacker News, how many of the people who are upset are actually iPhone developers and how many of them are not? Are the iPhone developers upset about this? The people who are actually going to be affected by these rules, or is it an abstract political debate? I don't know. We'll find out. I want to talk about that in a bit, but I also need to take a little time out here, so you may smoke them if you've got them, gentlemen. And if you'd like to spill wine on my carpet, go right ahead. There's plenty there already. We were talking before the show. My daughter had a party. That's all I'm going to say. It was not a good party. Squarespace, it was like that one in the movies, where, it was like in Superbad, that party in Superbad, where the guy pours out all the Tide detergent and puts beer in there. It was like that. It was that party. The fight breaks out in the backyard. That party was at my house last night. If you are starting a website, my friends, I got to tell you about Squarespace. What a great place. Wait a minute. Where's the website? I know it's here somewhere. Squarespace.com. That's right. So the secret behind exceptional websites, may I remind you, is squarespace.com. If you're happy with your web hosting company, if they're giving you everything you want at a great price and you got the greatest content management system, you don't need to listen to this commercial. On the other hand, if you're looking for great web hosting that includes software that is to die for, the best looking stuff out there, including amazing iPhone application. I'm sure there'll be an iPad application soon. Social integration, stats, intuitive editing, form and data collection, photo galleries. You got to look at Squarespace. Go to the squarespace.com/MacBreak and then check out the examples page. These are people who have done Squarespace sites. And I've mentioned this before. The thing I love about Squarespace is no site looks like a Squarespace site. You go to some of these other CMSs, the content management systems, I could tell that's a Drupal site, or I could tell that's a...
Our pixelcore.com, the new pixelcore.com site is all Squarespace.
That's a beautiful site. You did a nice job with that.
Thank you.
Easy to do. First of all, you start with great templates, but then you can customize them to your heart's desire, even use JavaScript and CSS to make it completely unique. Look, here's our blog, inside.twit.tv. We love this blog.
When you want to make changes, when you want to add pages, you want to do all those things.
So easy.
It's just a piece of cake. Yeah. And you just throw them in there. Squarespace,
it's a piece of cake. You heard it here first. Now, I got a way you can get 10% off for the life of your site. Now, that's a good deal. When you can try it free, no credit card needed when you go to squarespace.com/MacBreak. So that's kind of nice. That makes it very simple. And then if you decide to sign up after your 2-week credit card free trial, and you decide to give them a credit card number and build that site, use the coupon code MacBreak. You get 10% off, not just for the first year or the first 5 years, but the first forever. The second forever is up to you. 10% off. That could add up to hundreds of dollars, thousands even. Squarespace.com/MacBreak. Use the promo code MacBreak. It's a great way. Just try it. You don't have to take our word for it. Just try it. A great way to make a great site. And so say all of us. Where were we going to? We have so many stories. Let's talk about the iPhone 4 because I think that, that was really funny that somebody wrote to Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is very forthcoming these days in his email. Wrote to Steve Jobs and said, "Hey, I hate this. What do you think?" And Jobs wrote back and said, "We think Gruber got it right."
Yeah,
that was cool.
Now I don't know. How do you think we should get Gruber's on a couple of weeks ago or last week? We should get him on again because I wonder how he feels. Is that good or bad? If you're a blogger and the mothership says, "Oh yeah, Gruber's the guy," I mean, that's good.
It's good.
It's good.
It's good because his point of view was good.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about it. So first of all, let's say what happened. iPhone 4.0, 7 tent poles, blah, blah, blah. We'll talk about, I guess, some of those multitasking, better business support, iAds, not so crazy about. The new gaming platform, it's got to drive some of these other guys crazy. But there was no announcement of what many think was the most important part of iPhone 4.0. Steve didn't say anything about it. Somebody had to dig through the developer's agreement. The agreement says you may not use non-Apple tools to develop for the iPhone, period. Now, everybody knows Adobe was developing a cross-platform tool based on Flash so that you could write once and run on all the platforms. And now it's dead. In fact, it's in CS5. It's dead. So now Gruber wrote 2 blog posts. And I think it was the second post that Steve was referring to when he says, "John speaks for us." Jeez. And let me see if I can read the salient. So what Apple does not want is for some other company to establish a de facto software platform on top of Cocoa Touch. For several reasons. I mean, there's a pure business reason. If there's a cross-platform app market, there's no differentiation for the iPhone. All the phones can do the same thing. But he makes a second point, which I think is very good, which is that a meta platform like that would be out of Apple's control. Consider a world where some other company's cross-platform toolkit proved wildly popular, then Apple releases a major new feature to the iPhone, and the other toolkit doesn't adopt it. At that point, it's the other company that controls what third-party developers can do. And Apple's, of course, that's anathema to Steve Jobs. So you agree with that, Craig?
I do. I mean, also, when you have these cross-platform tools and you start porting them over, I mean, you can't get some weird libraries that are laying around in the code. It can just affect the performance somewhat. It's much better if you kind of use the tools that Apple's providing. Well, and they're not that they're crummy tools. They're actually really good tools.
No, they're great tools. That's not the point. What if Microsoft had said you can only develop with Microsoft tools for Windows?
Then Windows
they
would
had said that early on. That's what people would have done.
Much better software.
Well, that's that trains run on time argument. Yeah, I mean, a dictatorship does produce.
Oh, but I think I think one of the issues is that as a Mac user, a longtime Mac user, I've watched some of my favorite apps get ported to the PC, and none of them run better after they were ported to the PC on the Mac. It never turns out well for a Mac user. It always is because it's the lowest common denominator. Well, the PC can't do that, or we start conforming to the Windows. And I mean, I'm old enough to remember what Photoshop was like before.
I was just going to say, I think of Adobe. Yep.
Yeah, and so the thing, I mean, we're going right back to the company that's complaining about it. Is that when the Adobe apps are great. I use them every day, and they feel like a PC app being put into a Mac. They don't feel like a true Mac. All the way, app. They're not taking full advantage of all the things that they could do. They would be a better.
Really?
Photoshop would be better if it was only written for the Mac. Like if it wasn't, it wasn't cross-platform. We weren't trying to, deal with the PC. We weren't lowest common denominator between the two. It would be a better app for a Mac user.
I thought my favorite part of that blog post was it just cut right to the point. He used the example of the Kindle app, which is available. Amazon did a Kindle app for the iPhone. They did a Kindle app for the Mac. For the iPhone, they had to use Apple's tools and all of Apple's APIs and build an iPhone app, and it looks great. For the Mac version, they just simply ported code using whatever framework would get it done quickly.
Qt
and
is what they use.
It's a window that has text in it, and it is technically a book reader, but it's just it's not good at all. I had a long argument last week. Actually, I'm sorry, it was mostly a one-way argument because I was trying to understand this analyst's point of view about why no journalist would ever want to have their content published through Apple Store, whether it was Time Magazine, whether it was a book publisher, whether it was someone like me. And I'm trying to get to where the core of his argument was, and it seemed to be that Apple was behaving like Stalin, like a tyrannical dictator, and I just don't get that. I don't get where people think that this is a huge deal. I think that I think that the correct way to look at this is that this is a decision that Apple made. They're not trying to control the world. They're not trying to control the users. They're just kind of trying to control their own platform. And if this is the bad choice, then the one group that's going to really pay for it is going to be Apple. So that's a risk that they have the ability to take. I mean, no one's no one's being sent to a gulag anywhere. This is just deciding how applications get built on the iPhone and the iPad. Period.
Yeah, exactly. No one's forcing them to do that.
I guess the question is this? Yeah, of course, Apple can do it, and you don't have to buy an iPhone. But I guess the question is this the right thing to do for the iPhone users? Is this good for iPhone users? Is the question.
It'll result in better software, so yes, it will.
I think it's better for I also think it's better for the iPhone user because I think that the issue is there was here at NAB there was a big hubbub about a lot of producers who are making 3D films are really upset about Clash of the Titans because they were a little upset about Alice in Wonderland. They're really upset with Clash of the Titans because it's bad 3D. It is you might as well not even bother to see Clash of the Titans in 3D because they just wanted to make some money, so they just wanted to port it over to 3D, cut some stuff up, try to give it a little bit of dimension. And they said if people keep on releasing films like this, no one's going to buy any. No one's going to buy 3D. In the same way, the issue with the iPhone is that we will get lower quality, less stable applications through these kind of ports. And I won't feel safe of it's going to be a good application. And it could be flooded. I mean, it could end up being a third of the apps are done that way. And so do we have to if we do end up with stuff that is written by third parties, I want badges on it that says that's what it is, because I can tell you right now that unless it was extremely compelling.
Aren't there a bunch of crappy products in the 185,000 title app store?
There are, and I think it would
written
only
in
get
native
worse.
tools.
Yeah. No, but I think this would only exacerbate that situation.
Exacerbate and exasperate.
Yeah, I think reducing the development platform is going to reduce a lot of these junky apps that are out there. And I think that's going to be a big plus for the brand. It's interesting. I look back on the earlier days of Mac, and all the Windows people were saying, we got all these apps, and isn't it great? And us Mac people were like, well, no, we've got plenty, and the ones we have are really good and a lot better than the thousands you have. Now this argument's kind of coming back around to Apple in the other way. And I actually think that this is probably one way that Steve is actually going to trim down the amount of apps that are out there. It's just going to increase the quality rather than the quantity.
It's, by the way, not just Adobe products. There's a good post on 37signals.com, 5 rational arguments against Apple's policy, and they in that post say there's also Titanium, Gambit Scheme, Monotouch, and Unity 3D.
A bunch of game engines.
It's not merely that you can't use non-Apple tools. You have to use Objective-C. And their developers don't want to use Objective-C, and it doesn't.
I think what I really want to know from Apple is, though,
go ahead, Andy.
I'm sorry. What I really want to know from Apple is this limitation a outright restriction and ban, saying that if you're using any external code libraries, if your software is not written to with our tools in Objective-C, we will not approve those apps? Or is that just a potential poison pill, saying that we reserve the right to ban your app if it does not use our tools? We also reserve the right to make your app completely incompatible and not care with future OS releases. Those are two slightly different positions. One is simply saying we want to control the direction of our platform. The other one is saying is we want to absolutely control the direction of our platform. I'm guessing it's the latter, but
yeah.
There is some people that are pointing out that that one of the issues could be also stuff with the multitasking, with being able to have full control over the apps and what they do in the background, with being able. There's a lot of things that need to be tied in there. That they have to follow a bunch of rules, and there's not a guarantee that they would follow those if they're not built in Xcode, because Xcode is giving you a bunch of libraries, but it's also giving you the structure that Apple needs you to work within so that it can manage all the things it needs at an OS level.
These are all coherent arguments, and I think that the 37 Signals blog post, finally, when it boils down to it, is simply this: developers are an independent lot and don't like to be told how they can develop. They have their preferences. They have the ways they like to do it. And he says at the end of the post, it is better to be loved than feared, especially when it comes to developers. And Apple, he says, has jumped the gun. We weren't done loving you before you made us fear you. And I think that that's a legitimate point.
Oh God! See,
I guess as a consumer of the iPhone and as a developer for the iPhone, I strongly feel that if people think this is a bad idea, they should, especially if they think it's a bad idea to develop for Apple because they did this. I definitely think they should just develop for another platform.
Well, and I wonder, is this good for? This is very good for Android. In fact, there's a move afoot at Google to support Android development with Ruby and Python and other things. And of course, it's not wrong. It's not illegal. In fact, it's in the house at Google.
Right. But I think the other thing that I keep seeing in a lot of these blog posts is the idea that Apple is supposed to be your dad. That, it's my dad. He's supposed to do everything that I think is good and holy and upright and upstanding, that I could never have any qualm with. That makes absolute, total, crystal clear sense to me at first blush. And
it's a business.
Apple is a business, and they're going to do things that you don't understand right now that are for the best interest of the users. They're also going to do things that you don't understand right now that are solely in the best interest of Apple. So if you're going to complain about some of their policies, you really have to complain directly about what they're doing, and simply not say, "Oh man, you gave us the iPad, and we thought you were gods, and now you're telling us that developers can't do what they want to do with the software they want to build." Well, again, wake up. It's a company. It's not your dad.
Well, okay, so let's make the argument on those terms. It may be a bad business decision as well, is the point.
It may be a bad business decision as well. That's something that the developer community will vote on. That's something that the consumers are going to vote on. And in the end, the people who are going to pay the price are the same people who made that decision. It's a very nice, nice balanced sort of risk reward sort of thing.
Here's a surprise. Go ahead if you want to. A coda from Craig Syverson.
Finalize this idea. There's a lot of bifurcation in the idea of there's the developers and then there's the product people. I find that a lot. The engineering side and the product side and the design side. Apple's clearly on the product side. They're not necessarily totally focused on the engineering part of things. They're making beautiful products. They're making things that have emotional responses with people. And I think this policy fits right into that. I think it's a super long-term decision. I think it's probably a very good business decision for them as well. But they think differently. The geeks get upset when it's not open and it's not all of these things that geeks like. But Apple's not making geekdom. They're making actual consumer products.
Right. Excellent point.
Here's a surprise. I was wrong about two things. I said Apple will never put multitasking in the iPhone. Oh, we should probably talk more about iPhone 4.0. And they will never, ever, in a million years, will they allow Opera to appear on the iPhone.
Dun, 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 dun.
Boy, was I wrong on both. Opera Mini today in the iPhone store. I mean, it's not something... I'm not going to run and jump and start using it. I think Safari is still superior, but people who want to have a choice now have a choice, and I never would have credited this to Apple, to be honest. Why did they do this?
It's super smart to do that, too, because it's not as good as Safari.
Right. If it were a threat, they wouldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I like the idea that we have an alternative browser just to do things like see how well a web page with search would be, so I can search the contents of the page, all kinds of other features and all kinds of other user interfaces. In terms of the thing that Opera is supposed to be good at, which is loading in pages super fast, I don't think it works all that much better than Safari.
Yeah.
I even tried it on my Edge, my old first generation phone, to try it under Edge, and it didn't really work that much better. I'm sorry, rather, I turned off the best test to turn off 3G on your modern phone and see how well it'll load in on that really super slow network. And it was faster, but it wasn't so fast that it's worth downloading another app and using. I
love Find and Page, though. I mean, God, that's something that we need to have really for a long time.
I'm more disappointed that's not available on the iPad Safari than on the iPhone Safari, because I just missed that.
There is a JavaScript hack, you can add a JavaScript bookmark that will do it, but it's a bit of a hack.
Yeah, but again, the hack and bookmark and JavaScript are 3 words that should not be associated with searching the text of a web page.
No, I agree. It's snappy. There's a lot of real estate used by the user interface, but you may be able to turn that off. I haven't played with it that much yet. It's nice to have a little competition, right? One thing Opera Mini
to me, though,
it does, doesn't it? One thing Opera Mini does, it's my understanding, is it proxies it caches all the graphics.
You're not connecting to the web directly. You're connected to their servers that cooks up a lower bandwidth version of every site that you want to go through, and there's enough unknown to me on what happens on that server that I don't know if I want to do my online banking through that sort of thing.
Yeah, they actually strip off the certificate, so you might want to just be aware of that difference when you use Opera Mini. I'm just going to log into I better not show you my login, my Twitter. There is a full screen button, I see, so I can go full screen on it. I don't know. I won't uninstall it. I bet I won't use it much. And why do you think Apple did this? You said this was a good idea, Craig.
Right. It helps diffuse some of the noise that people are complaining that Apple's not open to, competitive type apps. But also, think of the iPhone whole platform is about this integration and this simplicity that's transparent to the user. It's opaque to the user, right? There's no file structure. Right. There's no nothing. So all of the things that are going to be happening on the phone are going to default to Safari anyway.
Right.
No one's going to do.
You can't change
hacks.
that. Right.
So there's really no harm in letting this thing out, and there'd be more harm in not putting it out, not letting it go out. So simple decision.
I really wish I knew whether this was as political a decision as that, or whether it was a simple question of the versions that they had been submitting had some super secret thing that Apple could not approve, but they made some sort of small modification that just on a technical reason said, great, we don't care whether it's a browser or not. We just care that you were doing this thing improperly, or that you were laying things through a proxy and not really identifying that to the user properly, and we'll never know.
Yeah, right.
Some say, and I think this might be true, Opera's been very aggressive in the EU, pursuing Microsoft like a dog with a bone. And some say this might be really just to stay out of the way of the European Union.
Yeah.
And that may make sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because Apple has in the past rejected many an app because they, quote, duplicate a function already in the iPhone. I mean, I can't think of a function more clearly duplicated than a browser.
Well, I think the one problem that Apple may have is that this does create a little bit more confusion. It's not the rule is not as clear when they start letting in apps that clearly are duplicating something and then saying now it looks more arbitrary. Like when they do it all the time and straight through, I think you can have the appearance of being fair. When you let some in and then not let other ones in, then it becomes the appearance of that it might be arbitrary becomes much more apparent.
By the way, John Siracusa, who we've talked to before from Ars Tech, he's from Ars, I think, yeah?
Ars Tech, yeah.
Yeah. Says, concurs with my thinking that this is a gamble. He says, Apple's decisions regarding its mobile platform in particular have been extremely protective from the very start, obviously. Cumulatively, these actions represent a huge bet placed by Apple. The proposition is this: Apple is betting it can grow its platform fast enough, using any means necessary, that developers will stick around despite all the hardships and shoddy treatment. Each time it chooses to do what it thinks is best for the future of the iPhone OS platform, instead of what will please developers, Apple is pushing more chips into the pot. You agree? Mm-hmm. It's a gamble. Mm-hmm. And it is shoddy treatment for some developers, but Apple's gambling. They won't care because it's such a strong platform. They will have to develop for it.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if I agree 100% with the idea that developers feel as though they're being treated shoddily. They don't like the term. The ones I talk to, they don't like a lot of what they don't like most of all is the uncertainty of working on an app and not knowing 100% what Apple is going to approve of it or not. Right. There are as many different opinions about Apple as there are different developers, but I don't see, when I talk, they tell me it's not, why am I writing for Apple? Why am I letting myself be handcuffed like this? It's always a...
Uh-oh. Andy, you're breaking up a little bit.
For it.
Say that whole sentence again, because that was a good sentence and we lost about half of it. Maybe don't say anything at all. Just sit there frozen in stunned silence.
Let's all be really still.
Everybody not move. Just wait for Andy to come back. And there he goes. Boom. I'm going to get him back because that was a good, what he was saying was good. And then we'll get to the 7 tent poles of iPhone 4.0.
Tent poles. That's a big tent.
It's a big tent.
It's a funny looking tent.
I have a tent like that on my farm on We Rule.
Don't put it down.
Hey, I harvested the beans and I planted
I'm really glad to hear
carrots.
that. Yeah.
Because I think it's good to have a varied diet for my little people.
Yes. I'm getting all your updates on your Facebook feed, so you don't have to tell me.
No, We Rule is not sending stuff to Facebook, is it?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I hope not. God, that would be embarrassing. It's 2 a.m. and Leo just planted artichokes. Oh, dear. Andy's not coming. I'm getting him back as soon as I can here. But don't you think that's a pretty little farm? I've planted some little extra things to make the people happy, the little people here. We've got a picnic table somewhere, and I try to keep the mining and forestry operations away from the houses. I want them to be happy. Now, for some reason, there's a giant frog and a wizard here. I don't know what's going on there.
Hello.
Ah, there we go.
He's back.
Hi, Andy. See, when I touch...
Okay, call back in a minute. I'm not done yelling about Skype yet. I still have some voice left.
Leo, put it down.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay. I'm just killing time waiting for Andy to come back. If you would
That was my fault.
Start your camera there.
Oh, sorry.
I am Chief Twit on We Rule. My plus name is Chief Twit. Thank you. Thank you very much. Of course, that's one of the tent poles, isn't it? That Apple will do its own gaming community.
Yes.
There we go. Okay. I wanted you to start over, Andy, at the part where you said I've talked to a lot of developers and their reaction is.
I've talked to a lot of developers, and the first words out of their mouths are not, "Oh, Apple is so cruel to us. This is a terrible situation we're in. I wish that we had better terms." It's always about the apps that they want to build, the tools that they get to use. They're not at all happy that if there's one thing they're unhappy about, it's that, of course, they're going to put all this work in on an app without a 100% guarantee that they will actually be able to sell the fruits of their labors. But honestly, I mean, I also acknowledge that there are as many different opinions about Apple as there are developers. But I really don't get the sense that there is a torches and pitchforks sort of mentality from the developers. They seem to think that they have a business relationship with Apple. Apple is having the upper hand, is going to dictate certain terms of that business arrangement, but it's an arrangement that they are overall willing to undertake.
All right. Exactly. I think well said, all of you, and I think we've covered this sufficiently. Let's talk about the 7 tent poles of iPhone 4.0. By the way, Gruber got it, I think, 100% right. It's almost as if he knew. Maybe he and Steve are like buddies.
He is saying, just listen to John. He's kind of, he can be Steve's Joab. He can go out there. And
I choose not to speak, but John will do my speaking for me. Bring me the head of John the Gruber. So... John said multitasking, and it happened. I'm shocked. It does. Is it now, Greg? You were saying it's kind of not. It is or it isn't multitasking.
Well, it depends on how you define it, but I think it's the best way, or it's a good way of doing multitasking for this particular platform.
I was nervous because I have experience with multitasking phones, and they hang, and they get slow, and
I didn't want more. I mean, it's always had it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't necessarily dying to have more things, except for the classic idea of Pandora. And of course, bringing Tim out on stage was perfect, because that was the main kind of use case that most of us are concerned about.
Right. Let us play a Pandora music in the background as well as iPod music.
Right.
On Skype.
And Skype.
Like
the two big things. Right.
I mean, that's I think that got me more excited about it than anything else he talked about.
Do you think that's a shot at AT&T?
I just think it's a shot that all of us wanted. I mean, I don't know if I don't think that they need to do anything against AT&T. I mean, I just it's so frustrating to have to keep Skype open and in the front just to make calls. That was, for me, that was the most important thing that I saw, I think, in that whole session.
They really need to improve the notification system, though, if you're going to have background processes. The notification system on the iPhone, currently on the iPad, is one at a time. It's so much nicer on the Android where you can stack them, you can read a bunch of them, you can clear them.
Yeah.
And they just, I gave out my handle in We Rule a minute ago, and now basically I can't do anything on my iPad because anytime I try to do something, I get a notification from We Rule saying, "Oh, somebody's just joined We Rule." So and it interrupts an application if you're playing Plants vs. Zombies in the middle of a very important, and then all of a sudden you get a notification. That sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're not fixing that, by the way. That's not to be fixed.
Yeah, I mean, I think Android does it exceptionally well. I think the Pre does it best of all. My problem with the way that Android does it is that if you leave your phone alone for 90 minutes, suddenly you've got this huge Venetian blind of stuff, and the one thing that you really need to be notified about gets buried in the middle of it.
At least they're all there.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. What I'm more concerned about is I'm wondering if the home button at the bottom of the screen was designed to be punched as often as it's going to be used when it becomes the mechanism for switching between applications.
Is it press and hold? Because that's kind of what it is.
It's double press.
Click.
Double click.
To bring up the running apps. And we already have that sort of behavior on the phone as our mechanism for just getting from one app to another. But given that we're not multitasking, we tend not to leave one app and go to another until we feel as though we're kind of done with that app. When it becomes and when I've got instant messaging on, I've got my music player on, when I've got a couple other apps on at the same time, I'm wondering what happens when I'm just clicking this button that probably did not cost $8 per unit. I'm double tapping it every 3 times a minute.
I killed the button, the home button on my 3G.
Yeah,
and it would go off at a moment's notice. So
I'm really curious to see, when we see the new 4th generation hardware this summer, which I think we all agree we're definitely going to be seeing. I'm wondering if we're going to see an upgraded build just to support that sort of stuff.
Would be a good idea.
I'm so glad you're saying that, Andy. I thought it was just me being totally weird about the home button. I had these same thoughts. Even now, I don't double click to go back to the home page. I flick through just to preserve that button. But
really?
Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, I just thought it was a weird quirk that
protect the home button, whatever you do.
Protect the button, but I think Andy's point is really good. If they do beef up that button, that would be very smart.
I do have to admit, I approach it as well. I bought Apple Care, and it's very easy to replace my phone. Just back it up. I mean, it's not going to be me that's paying for that button to get fixed. It's going to be Apple paying.
So this may be really this iPhone 4.0 really may be in support of Apple Care.
Yes, it also overclocks the processor.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna make Apple Care $10 more to cover the fact that we're going to replace the button.
A lot of buttons.
Yeah, exactly.
Other tentpole. Well, so multitasking. I think we needed that. Everything that Apple did, though, I have to say, was in reaction to other platforms. So in reaction to Android, they added multitask. Well, actually, everybody, because they were the last phone not to do it. And also in reaction to Android, what are the tentpoles?
We had the iAds.
But this is rather a reaction to Google. That's right, doing its own ad platform since they lost AdMob to Google.
Got the unified inbox for mail, which is awesome.
That's also a reaction to Android. Yeah,
that was a reaction to Leo. Someone was complaining about that. They were like, they saw our show last week, and you were talking about it, and they were like, Leo would really,
just for me, they did that, huh?
Yeah, I think that was actually a Leo end.
No, I don't care that much about a unified inbox. Although on the iPad, it really is a pain to flick. You got to go back, cut back. You got to drill up and down all the time to go to multiple accounts. It'd be nice to have one inbox. That's nice. And I think there are a lot of features that we're not seeing. These are just their tentpole features. Interesting, they're going to do a gaming network. This is equivalent to Twitter saying we're going to make a Twitter client. There are a number of very good gaming networks like Plus and OpenFaint already on the iPhone.
I think the biggest deal of them all, especially with multitasking, is arranging things into folders. Finally,
folders. That's a response to Android. Yeah, that's an Android response.
Also, it's interesting that they're making an automatic organization, so that if you want to automatically have all your games and all your category apps in their separate folders, that'll handle that automatically. But yeah, I mean, all of us have how soon early did it take any of us to max out all the screens we had available here? And so it's definitely gonna be if that's gonna be the when I sometimes like to sort of part out, do a tear down of all the features that are available on an operating system update. So if Leopard costs $129 to upgrade, how much is this feature worth? How much is that feature worth? I think already I'll give you $10 for folders on my iPhone right now.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of the slippery slope, I think, for Apple's dealing with having all these things on the phone and iPad platforms. We're going to start seeing it with documents like in iWork, where you have to start dealing with when you have a lot of individual bits. I think it's going to be a big user experience challenge for them. So far, I think folders is the best idea, but it's a slippery slope. It's going to get worse and worse.
There definitely is a little bit more complexity that's being added in, both with the mechanism for switching between apps and the mechanism for setting up and moving between folders like that. I'm wondering if some of the elegance of the iPhone is going to get lost in that. I don't see that being a problem with the iPad, but on the iPhone, I pride myself on the fact that there are features that you can just figure out and discover really, really easily.
That was kind of my feeling, yeah.
Right.
They're going after RIM with better support for business, the kinds of things businesses want, like remote installation, remote configuration, 2 Exchange servers, better encryption, that kind of thing. And they had to do that. I wonder if they'll make an iPhone without a camera, since many businesses require no cameras in the phone. Although
isn't that a touch?
That's a touch, isn't it? Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Well, yeah. Gotta have a phone.
Isn't that just as simple as producing a different kind of case back that has no hole cut out for the camera?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be more like, look, if you want one, we will charge you an extra $3 to give you this,
cover the hole up. You can take a picture, but it will be dark.
Well, yeah, because it'll have the exact same camera features as the iPad.
Now, Microsoft this week announced 2 social phones, the Kin, which are basically their danger phones. They've got, of course, Windows 7 phone series coming in the fall. And so this has gotten to be and I think actually this brings Microsoft back into the game where they've really been failing. Palm's gone. In fact, Palm apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, has hired somebody to help put them up for sale. So Palm is just, I think, history.
What do you buy? I mean, other than the desks.
What do you
WebOS?
Yeah, what do you buy?
What property they have that?
Somebody, you know what you buy? You buy the patents. And somebody suggested, I think this is probably what happened, that HTC buys them so that they can have mutually assured destruction in their war with Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's who's going to buy them. They're going to buy them for the patents. Smart. Yeah. You think a threat at all from any of these other phones? I mean, I have to say, I give Apple a lot of credit for putting the iPhone out and making a great phone. And it took a while, but I think other companies are now responding. I think Android's coming on pretty strong. It does provide an alternative to disgruntled developers that will be, I think, soon. Well, maybe not as big as the iPhone, but a good, strong platform. Microsoft's back.
I mean, the thing that we have to remember is that no matter how big the iPhone market gets, is that Apple had a thriving market at 5% of the market. Right. I mean, it doesn't matter that because the smartphone market is the future. I mean, it'll be everything everywhere, in the not too distant future. I mean, you won't be able to buy something that isn't a smartphone. So this is a massive market. It's bigger than the computer market, and Apple did fine at 5%. So if the Android gets to 10% or 15% or 20%, that'll be a massive market, and it'll be very successful in its own right. It doesn't have to win to win.
You're totally right, especially in developing countries too. Like we're looking at here at Yahoo, where we're putting out things for different countries, and a lot of these developing countries, we're just making the assumption they're not going to have any kind of a laptop or a desktop. It's all going to be smartphone. Will be the platform that they're on. So it's going to get bigger.
Okay. Any other tent poles anybody wants to mention?
What did you guys think of the iAds? I thought the iAds were actually pretty. I mean, I thought that the ads themselves were pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about anything that puts more ads on my stuff. To be honest. And then when Steve Jobs says, what did he say, 1 billion ad impressions a day, I'm going, oh God.
Potential ad impressions.
What did he say? So let's say there's, by the end of the year, 100 million of these iPhone, iPod Touches, and iPads. And he says each user watches that screen for around half an hour, right, a day. I'm not sure what this. Somebody said an ad every 10 minutes, but I think it's actually 3 ads. I mean, it's 100 million times 10 ads. So I think it's an ad every 3 minutes is what he's talking about, because he said 1 billion ad impressions a day.
I guess if they were built the way that they showed them there. I mean, the only thing that I was concerned about is it sounded like they're going to sell all the ads, and so it doesn't seem like it feels like I lose a lot of control if I allow them to put ads on in my app. over the kind of ad. I want to have that interactivity. And when I looked at the interactivity that they had with those ads, that's the kind of stuff that
you thought that was cool.
Did in MacBreak. We did that in MacBreak 3.5 years ago.
You put a little thing in the lower third.
Yeah.
I bet there's so little real estate on the phone. Maybe that's okay on the iPad, but I hate it. And now we'll see. I mean, if it's only in free apps, okay. You're getting a free app or a cheap app, and it's supported that way.
But wouldn't it be? But wouldn't
I hate to see it in paid apps.
If you're doing a true 16:9 image, even on the iPhone, you actually have 40. I think it's like 40 pixels on the bottom that you could put stuff down there that's just sitting there. And it would be nice to have Squarespace or Citrix or whatever you wanted that's going down along that bottom area, and people can choose to click on it if they want, or it could come up. Maybe we can get and I love the idea that it's not just text. As someone who wants to use advertising, and also, I mean, I'd like to if Apple can aggregate and I can make money on possibly, I mean, they didn't say this, but what if they were making money on our podcast? Not our podcast, but somebody's podcast. You put them up there and you get a big following. You don't have to think about the advertising. Apple's going to flow stuff in there.
I don't mind and they take a mere 40%. Actually, that's industry standard, so I'm not.
I mean, that's the whole big deal. People who otherwise would be thinking, I really want to make some money off this app. I really want to give away that app for free, but I don't have the time or the expertise to figure out how to choose an ad network, how to support that ad network. If it's just a simple standardized thing where just like Apple will take care of the marketing and the transaction fees for the sales of my app, they'll also handle all the scut work involved in putting ads in the app. That might make a lot more apps self-sustainable. I think it'll also mean that if it means more good free apps, that's great. If it means that my 99-cent apps will also have ads in them, that's not a good thing for me.
Right.
Hey, Alex, has Apple revealed how they're going to deal with the network, or how the people who want to advertise are going to interact with them on that? Is there any details on that?
I don't think that they really. I think they just said we're going to do it. I don't think they did this, and they showed some examples. It did say the one thing that I did key on is that we'll sell them all for you. So that there was I was like, But at the same time, if they gave us the ability to add those in on our own, but it doesn't sound like they're going to let us. And it sounds like we're talking about big advertisers oftentimes, or ones that want to target it. It's going to be very much like you can buy advertising. I don't know.
It'll be just like Facebook, right? You buy.
You can buy
teenagers, you buy women, you buy...
Right. Mm-hmm. So we'll see lots of Coca-Cola and that kind of thing. But if I'm putting out podcasts that I'm not selling ads for right now, and I'm making some extra money on them, I'm not necessarily going to complain about that.
Well, and I don't mind on a podcast because it's an audio thing that if it takes up some screen real estate. I mind on a game. I mind on a...
But I think as a game developer, you're going to have some opportunities to figure out. I don't think it has to be persistent either. I think you can probably have it where you want to have it.
Okay.
Even with the ones that are out there, some of the ones that are playing with it now, it's not like it's on the whole screen all the time.
Right.
It's there at certain times, and it's there available. And I bet you you're going to have ways to kind of wire that in on your own.
All right. Well, I'll reserve judgment until I see how it's implemented, I guess.
I'm excited for it, actually, just to see how this might help redefine the quality of ads, the aesthetic quality and the experiential quality of them. This is something we've been thinking about, Alex, back 5 years ago. Like how can ads be more interesting and more engaging? And I think it's interesting that Apple's going to tackle this. And it was an emphasis that Steve kept making that, they are going to look nice. They're not going to be intrusive, because no one wins with that. I think some of the examples right now that are working for me are things like in Twitterific, these inline ads that are graphically very beautiful. And as a visual person, it doesn't bother me. I actually appreciate the fact that these advertisers are making aesthetic decisions and not trying to blow the thing apart visually.
Well, and I also think that I do think that this is should be scary to Google to some degree, because this is a very valuable segment. I mean, the people who are willing to pay what we pay for iPads and iPhones and applications and everything else, these are consumers that spend a lot of money. It is a very valuable segment, and you're taking that rich segment and you're taking control of it. And I think that that's going to be something that is problematic for other ad aggregators.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And let's see what else.
iWork.
Okay, let's talk about iWork, because Craig Syverson is here. Thank you, Andy. Ihnatko. Andy,
I want to hear what he says.
Yeah. Now, I've been playing with it. I have some complaints. I mean, okay, I'm an idiot. I'm using iPages. Is that what it's called? No, just Pages.
No, Pages, yeah.
In landscape mode.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't find any. I keep tapping it 3 times and everything.
I did that too.
What happened? I can't find any controls. In fact, I find this is a problem with a number of iPad apps because there's no standard, right? That's why I keep hitting it with 3 fingers, because on some programs like Sketchpad, 3 fingers does something.
Right.
So finally, like an idiot, I finally figure out, oh, you got to be. And now I don't know if you got to be in portrait mode, but I don't know if that's a good design feature or not.
I actually think it's not.
It's sort of confusing for an idiot like me.
Yeah. No,
I did it first, and then I decided I figured out why I think they do it. But I have no idea. I didn't talk to anyone there, but I have my thing is that I do like it once I've decided I'm going to type, to turn it, and I've set it up, and to type away and have a little bit and have as much screen real estate as I possibly can have, and not be thinking about anything else other than the text. I did sink into me that I'm not sure if I hate it. I hated it for the first 10 minutes, but I did exactly what you did. For 10 minutes, I sat there and couldn't figure out, like, do I push it this way?
And it made me feel dumb, which I guess I was.
Yeah. No, you weren't. That's a total design problem.
Yeah.
It's not your fault.
However, I do like the idea. See, I'm still of the opinion that the iPad is really mostly a content consumption device. It's like TV 2.0 to me. And so it puzzled me even at the announcement that Apple was kind of doing these content creation tools, because I knew they would be somewhat, I mean, they'd have to be, but of necessity, there's no file system, somewhat limited and complicated. Like try to print. You got to copy it to a computer to print. Or use, my pick. I have a couple of picks of the week, but one of the picks of the week, actually, some of them will help you print. But still, I just feel like it's really not a content creation device. And yet, this is what you do, Craig. What do you think?
I think when the announcement came out during the keynote that they included iWork. To me, that completely changed the iPad.
Yeah,
that was a shocker for me, actually, and the fact that they also allowed the external keyboard. Because it really started to place it into this point of being something that could substitute your laptop in certain cases. And I'm a little the naming of the iWork apps as the same name as the desktop apps.
Right.
I think it's a bit misleading because the functionality isn't at all a mirror. It's very much a lightweight version of the desktop apps, and so. I got it right away. I started using it in real time, taking Andy's inspiration of diving into something and really working on it. And I came in Monday morning, had a presentation, jacked a keynote into the projector, and it just worked. And it was great. And then later in that day, I had to create a new presentation, and I jumped on the iPad and I stopped because I just could not work with that fluidity.
Right.
And so I'm finding that. The way the apps have been designed and how they're working, there's a certain sort of period of time that they're appropriate. I think they're very appropriate when you're starting a project and you want to get ideas down, get them down quickly. But in the middle, that hard part where you're really building up something, I think you go to the desktop and work on that. And then the presentation and the distribution, the showing of the document can go back on the iPad, and you can make some small changes if you're on the road. I think that's the use case that they designed around. And for that purpose, it's quite good. There's
I have a question for you. So you said you had video playing.
That all these developers do. My favorite word processor, Scrivener, that I've spoken so much about. The developer is contemplating doing an iPad version, and I hope that he doesn't get intimidated by the idea of doing the full Scrivener for iPad, because it seems to me, as a user, the methodology is just pack me a lunch. Meaning, I don't need to have the full kitchen. Just pack me a lunch. Let me take the project I'm working on right now, pack it up, and let me put it on the iPad in a version where I can do meaningful work on it. Give me an application that will let me do meaningful work on it, even if I don't have every single feature available. And then when I get back home, I will have made forward progress in this project without having to have my full laptop with me.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel that way. The other point too that I find so now let's take the apps and think of them as standalone content creation devices. This is the perfect suite of apps for my mother-in-law, which I think the iPad itself is a great replacement for her instead of a netbook. So here now she can write letters, very simple ones. She could look at spreadsheets or whatever, but it's it's just that basic functionality from a creation point of view is also really valuable within that context. But if you want to do real work, you really need to go onto the desktop.
So okay, so it's an accessory, it's a toy, it's a tool, but it's a toy.
Well, I was concerned because some people had talked about keynotes crashing. Keynotes that were created on the Mac being brought in and then crashing on the iPad when they were trying to do presentations. And so I tried to build mine completely on the iPad. And the one thing that I had, as I said, I couldn't add movies when I was in the iPad version of Keynote. Craig, was I missing something? I couldn't find it in the help. I didn't see it there. It seemed that if I want to have movies there, I'd have to create them in the, over at the on the desktop version. Did you find that to be the case?
I found that if I got the movies into my my camera on the if I synced it with iTunes in the Photos app, you can put videos in the Photos app, and then you have access to the Photos app within Keynote to pull in images. And if
that's interesting,
one of those,
I put videos into iPhoto and I couldn't get them to sync up. So I got them synced to the. I said that's a library that I want, but they didn't show me. It was the wrong form. It might have been like a format that it didn't want to.
Could have been a compression issue, yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'm still teasing out all these use cases with bringing video in and out, because that was one of the first things that I tried. But I got it to work, and it plays nicely.
Great. That was the only thing that was missing for me as far as putting stuff together. I kind of forced myself to build the app, to build the presentations in Keynote, and I did find that it was probably half the speed at what I do on the desktop. Yeah. I did find that it got a lot faster, and it was kind of fun when I started realizing all the different finger things that I had to do. So Shift was kind of cool because you just hold down on something and then just click on the other things that you want to group select and move them around and those types of things. By forcing myself to kind of go through it, in a pinch, I could definitely see myself, putting stuff together in there. I do think it is much faster to do on the desktop, but I think it's also a little bit of learning a new language with my fingers. I'm just very fast on my mouse as well. I think
You're totally right. I think I'm finding it really fascinating how now I'm using, instead of just one point of contact, I have two or three. And the really interesting things that are happening when you actually start mucking around with data and images, it's a totally different thing, different part of the brain than using this discrete mouse. So I think we're seeing just the beginning of it. I think they did a pretty darn good job, given how complex all of these apps are, how they unified the experience on the iPad from an interaction point of view pretty well. There's some irritating things, but it's 1.0.
I think that the applications are absolutely necessary for the EDU market.
Of course. You can't sell this to a school unless you.
You had to have
word processor.
You add those plus all the other stuff, and you have the perfect school device.
Right.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I'm bringing this to my kids' high school tomorrow, to the board of directors meeting to show them, because right now they give the kids a laptop, a MacBook. And I'm wondering if this. I don't know if this would make a good replacement.
I would replace it. This is what
it's half as much.
Really?
I don't know. It makes sense from an economic point of view, but I was talking to somebody Saturday night who was asking me that sort of question, where they can either buy a new iBook or a new MacBook. And my first question was, well, how old is your MacBook? And it's still a PowerPC model. And I'm saying, okay, so now you're talking about this will have to be your real main computer.
Right.
If you had any sort of an Intel MacBook, I could say, well, great, it's sturdy enough that you can still run Snow Leopard, you can still use it to sync stuff up with, and you'll still have a credible computer at home. But they were a little bit more interested in getting themselves an iPad and trying to use that as their main thing.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand that you do need to have that tethered to a desktop for a couple of pretty key features.
Right.
I do think though that for a school and what they really
not
want
only key features to turn it on, you need to tie it to a desktop. You can't even use it.
But I think that when you look at what
I would posit as a key feature.
That's a key feature. The ability to actually use it for anything requires you to use iTunes. I was kind of disappointed by that. I bought one for my 80-year-old father-in-law, and I'm going to have to go down with my laptop to activate it.
But he's got to back it up, so he's
So
got to get him something.
Well, he doesn't have to back it up.
Yeah, you do. Especially if we're going to be making stuff on it now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why it really, to me, it's kind of a poor solution for content creation.
it's the integration of these apps with iWork.com and with iDisk is not there. It's really sad, and I'm hoping it's an artifact of 1.0. I'm hoping they're building it up.
What would you do to fix it?
I would have at least a much more better versioning system of how you keep track of what document is actually coming off of the iPad and onto the desktop and back. Right now, you're just making duplicates of the same file. Gruber talked about this, and I totally agree with him, that it's so quickly can you have 3 copies of the same thing, and now all in different places. One's in the iTunes library, one's on your iPad, one's on your desktop, maybe one's even on iWork.com. All 4 are different. It's a mess. And
Yeah.
I was thinking this is going to be the big user experience problem that they're going to be solving is how are these discrete files going to be working on a platform that's so minimized like this.
Right.
I think it can work. I was begging on Twitter that Apple buy Dropbox this week, just to...
Oh, yeah.
really,
So much better. But they have Dropbox. It's called Mobile Me. It just sucks.
Mobile Me doesn't suck, but iDisk, I'm not happy with.
All right. That feature of Mobile Me, yeah.
Right.
And isn't it odd that iWork is in no way related to Mobile Me?
Only, it's not...
Shouldn't those
directly.
iWork files be visible on the iDisk?
iWork.com is a little bit more of a professional context, so you want to have a bit more privacy control, although you can still have it on the iDisk. So I do find it a little odd that they're
Seems like they've got 2 different solutions that are...
Right, but iWork.com has a lot more previewing features and commenting features, and they're much more document-oriented than file system-oriented.
I think the thing that I think I'm hoping that iWork.com kind of points towards is that I do think that Apple can improve on the idea of a net application, which is that I would much rather buy from iTunes than buy from a web store. I've said that before, but I'd much rather work in iWork and have it do the same thing essentially that is being done when I use Google Docs, which is that I'm updating an online file. I'm not dealing with a web page. I'm not in Safari or Firefox. I don't need those. I just want it to do the same thing where it's connecting to that. And Apple can do that with Mobile Me. They can do it with all these different platforms. And I think that they can provide a better user experience than what we get with Google Docs. But as it is, all of our documents begin in Google Docs when we're working on the company because everyone can sit there and make all their adjustments to it. It then goes back out to Pages.
That's what it could be. It could be it's so close to that.
Yeah.
It's close. I think, Alex, I think it'd be a syncing thing rather than offline. Like
it's what the truth is, they could do it with it like this because Google Docs does accept arbitrary documents. You could put Microsoft Office documents on it. All they'd have to do is make a connector. In fact, maybe some third party could do this, and then you'd be done. And you'd have your iWork documents there. You can connect Google Docs. There are a lot of programs to connect Google Docs to the iPad.
Read only.
It's kind of a funky solution.
I think the thing that we're sort of universally missing here is that the iPad needs a version of the Finder, not necessarily the actual Apple Finder, but it sort of shows us how important it is to have some sort of a central file-oriented concierge.
See, I disagree.
So I disagree with your disagreement. I think that an application like air sharing is going to be very, very necessary to be that one place where you can deal with entities as they exist as files, not necessarily as data that's associated with a different app. And that application is the one that connects to iDisk or connects to your Dropbox or connects to your Box.net account and makes those files visible to other apps and will act as a centralized sync service to all these other applications that are inside the device. We've tried to get by without that for the past couple of weeks, and now we just sort of realized that we need to be able to deal with files as files. Even if all it does is version control, that's going to be a very, very important thing.
If you want to use it as a content creation device, and that's what my disagreement is.
I think anybody's going to want to use it as everybody's going to want it used as a content creation device. One of the classic use models of this thing for me from day one has always been, this is the device I'm going to take with me wherever I go, whenever I don't, I just want to be able to watch movies or listen to music in my car or whatever. But you know what? It's 1:30 in the afternoon and Apple or Microsoft has just announced something and I need to get 500 words written and published.
Right.
So thank God that I have the ability to create and publish. Thank God I have the ability when I get finally a book chapter that I've been sort of wrestling with for the past 2 or 3 days. Finally, I know how the damn thing starts. I can at least write down those first 3 or 4 paragraphs.
Well, you can do that.
Well, that's content that did not exist until I created it. Hence, content creation.
Yeah, but this is my feeling is that and I have a feeling there's a debate even within Apple because you feel a little schizophrenia over this. No, we're going to make it simple. We're not going to have any file system. We're not going to have any backup issues. We're not going to. You don't even know that their files are being created. Oh, but we're going to give you some content creation tools and third-party tools too, as well. I mean, there's quite a few drawing tools, so that kind of muddies the waters. And I think that adds complexity. I guess if you have, the thing I like about things like air sharing is, well, if somebody wants this capability, if you want to add it under the hood and you know what's going on, but when I give it to, say, my wife or my father-in-law, I like it that they don't have this complexity. The content creation that they're doing is email at best.
Right. It's function related. It's not. I mean, this is the whole vibe around the iPad. It's about what are you doing? The function of the app takes up the whole screen. It takes up your whole experience.
It's modal, which is funny because that's what Apple was against in the early days. Is
exactly.
Modality.
But you're thinking about the content, or you're thinking about the app. You're not really thinking about. You don't want to be thinking about the files.
Right.
I would agree, Andy, that I think a central repository is probably going to be necessary. But do you think that should be revealed to the casual user?
I don't think that should be like the center. I think the centerpiece of the iPad experience should be Springboard. It should not be here's a list of all your files on the device. Yeah. But I do think that if Apple doesn't do it, then there's going to be about a 5-way battle between 5 really big manufacturers to make an app like that, and then that's going to be the de facto thing. Let's take another look at this six months from now and find out that if you have 8 people with iPads in the room, how many people will have an app like Air Sharing just to manage files and just to view files? I think that's going to be at least 6 out of 8 are going to have those apps. That's as good a vote as you can possibly see.
As long as Pages and Keynote can access that Air Sharing file. Or that folder.
Right.
See, I can't wait for really good third-party Office type apps to come out, and that's when Pages and Keynote and the rest and Numbers have to really start fighting for survival. I talked last week about a conversation I had with the guys who do the folks who do Box.net, that they have APIs so that third-party developers can write iPad apps and iPhone apps that can just sort of transparently access cloud storage that's available on Box.net. And if I come across a really good word processor that simply can natively say, oh, here's your folder of all the arbitrary files you put in your Box.net share, I will read from them, I will write to them, and then as soon as I get back, so I don't ever have to explicitly sync the contents of this project folder from my desktop up to the iPad.
Right.
I never have to explicitly sync it right back down again. Box.net or whoever does that sort of a service, they become the Microsoft of that product category.
Yeah. And that's what we wish iWork.com will be.
Yeah.
That was a disappointment to me.
Yeah. So anyone use the external keyboard? And what are your experiences with that?
Works great.
I was really shocked by the fact that I was really pleased back in January to find that the command key equivalents for cut, copy, and paste work great. And so I sit down and I launch Pages and I crack my knuckles and I say, well, I guess Command B is going to work. No, Command B doesn't do anything. Well, Command I to italicize. No, Command I doesn't do anything. That all these command key equivalents, especially in the context of if I've taken the time to plug in an external keyboard, either via Bluetooth or mechanically, chances are I don't want to have to reach up and tap a boldface button, or more likely, I'm not going to have to reach up, turn it
sideways,
tap the boldface button, turn it back on its side, put it back down on my easel, and start typing again. That's just dumb.
Yeah, these are exactly the things I've was curious about when waiting for this thing to come out. Is the ergonomics and the actual feeling of reaching up to do stuff and this touch back and forth. It kind of goes back to this thing I was talking about with the general function of the apps. It's something you start with and you end with. With typing, I found that I get everything set up, and if I want to start typing, then I'll just type. And if there's a lot of errors, I'll just go back to them later. But I really find that reaching up or reaching over to do simple things is not quite right. But it's great if I just want to spew out a bunch of words. I'll pull out the other keyboard and go.
Well, it's not perfect. I guess, Andy, you want it to be more like a laptop or a netbook. I just like it to be a TV with some gaming.
last week, if I cannot count how many times I was asked for a quick synopsis of how good or how bad the iPad is at this conference. And it really helped me to sort of narrow down what I like about the iPad. And it's the fact that it is a blank screen upon which any software can project any feature that I need at any given moment. So I don't need it to be a notebook, but I need it when I need it to be something that I can write 800 words on. I need it to be pretty capable. So I don't necessarily need Microsoft Word, but if I had, let's say, text edit on it, so I can create and edit Word documents with not big formatting, but just give me limited style, give me limited font control, and let me hit Command B off the keyboard. Another thing, I can't believe that I missed is the having a tab key on the virtual keyboard, because there are times when you just want to do a little bit of formatting, or you're trying to move the cursor from one place to another, and I instinctively was tapping my ring finger to the left of the keyboard and say, oh, okay, well, I just typed a Q there instead of tabbing over to the side there. So I can't wait. I can't wait for mobile other versions of mobile Word apps, because that's going to be a game changer for me.
You do know, I mean, Pages, as you know, opens up Word docs, and I was somewhat delighted to be getting Word docs in email, double-clicking them, and then I get a preview screen, and then I can open it in Pages right away. That was fluid. That worked.
I'm disappointed that the Word files that Scrivener exports apparently are not compatible with Pages, because it simply tells me that it's an invalid file type. Really? So I know. Well, and I know that's my fault, because there's a Word doc is not a Word doc is not a Word doc. Right now, I think there are 3 different kinds between Office 07, the XML version of Office. But I have to sort of think a little bit carefully before I export a file to know that it's going to be something that I can edit then on the iPad.
Yeah.
All right, we have to. Boy, this is a long show. Of course, there's a lot to talk about. Thank you, Apple, for saving it all up, dumping it all on us at the same time. But boy, this is a great conversation. We'll do some more. Craig, we're going to get to our picks of the week. If you want to prepare one, you're welcome to. You could also do a tip if you want to do something with iWork. It's up to you. Okay. But before we do that, we do have a pick from Audible.com. Audibles are great.
Audible.
That's the Calacanis. Audible. Audible.com/MacBreak. You can get a free book by signing up for that gold account and cancel at any time, but that book is yours forever. Runs great on all your devices, your phone, pad, touch, pod, whatever it is that you have. Also runs, if you're one of those weird listeners, it has a Zune. It runs on the Kindle. Runs on GPS devices, a lot of devices. If you go to,
we don't morally judge. They just want your money.
They just want your money. Doesn't run on the Droid yet. Still working on that. Can't wait. Although I have to say, who knows? It may be moot, because when the new iPhone comes out, I may well switch back in June if it's like got all this. If it has a 5-megapixel camera and an OLED screen, I'm there. That's all. That's all I ask. Either way, I listen to Audible all the time. I listen to it when I go to bed. I listen to it when I. Oh, by the way,
scratch your head.
There you go, Andy. I was just checking to see whose followers are stupider, yours or mine. And apparently, Leo Laporte's fans are more stupid than Ihnatko's fans, just by quite a bit.
I prefer to think that my fans are more intelligent than yours.
They're smart as a whip. Mine are thick as 2 short planks. Just so you know. That's the famous. Stupid fight.
Isn't that actually like the name of your fan club, the Leo Laporte sack of doorknobs? Or is it the bag of hammers?
You know how they figure out who's stupider? Whose fans talk back to them more. And the presumption being, if you're a celebrity, your fans only stupid people would talk to you.
You see, Leo, that's where it helps for my position to make lots and lots of mistakes. Factual mistakes, grammatical errors, just stuff like that. They'll talk back to you, and you'll get that score way back up.
Actually, it says we use several stupid indicators, including multiple exclamation marks, endlessly abbreviating OMG. Do they do it all in caps?
So we're seeing a little tinge of prejudice here, aren't we? I see lots of sentences ended with prepositions here.
Clearly, a fool.
Must be some Eastern Europeans in their fan base. Oh, can't have that. Not a William and Mary graduate by any means.
So, Audible, where do we go? I got lost some here with this bad, silly, stupid battle. Go to the Device Center, and you can see all the devices that Audible supports it from. Amazon, Apple, Koan, Creative, Higher Insignia, iRiver, on and on and on and on and on and on, including SanDisk, the Sansas, all of the most popular devices. Now, once you get the book, you can listen on your computer or you can copy it over to your device, listen wherever you go. The files are fairly small. They do have a new enhanced format that's much bigger, but now that we have a lot of storage, it's not so much bigger that it means you can't store about 100 books on most portable devices. And you're going to want 100 books. As soon as you start browsing around audible.com, you start to say, wow, I'd like to listen to that. I've always wanted to read. Oh, my goodness, I meant to read that in high school. I never got around to it. I mean, it just goes on and on. I'm excited about Kitty Kelly's biography of Oprah. Looking forward to reading that. Never did have time to read that 20-hour magnum opus. But I will be reading it. Maybe, Andy, you have a better recommendation, though. Save me, Andy.
Well, see, Oprah still has a number of shows left. I'm still hoping to get booked on the show. So until then, I am not going to support Kitty Kelly's book, even indirectly.
Smart man.
I'm in your fan club, Oprah.
I love you, Oprah.
Coming out this year, I could really use your support.
Let me just see.
We're just money in a box, Oprah. That'll do me just fine.
Compare your followers to Oprah's followers. See who's.
Hey, Leo, this might be an old Audible pick, but have you listened to Pattern Recognition by William Gibson as the audiobook?
I've read it. I've never listened. Is it a good audiobook?
It's a really good audiobook. The reader is wonderful, the woman who does it, and she sets just the right tone. So it's one of those books that really translates well into audio and really translates well because she's just doing a perfect job. I think it's one of Gibson's better books, and I just really, really have been enjoying the Audible version.
I'm putting it on my list right now. That's great. Yeah. Pattern Recognition by William Gibson. They don't have Neuromancer, I think, unless
no. There's he did his own version of that,
which I have. Cory Doctorow passed it on to me. It's no longer in print.
It's rather difficult to listen to. I found a copy.
Not good. That's where you really you benefit.
Really appreciate the talent.
Yeah, exactly. Audible really has great actors reading. Shelley Frazier does. This is good. I'm gonna.
Yeah, she's great.
I'm gonna get this one. Andy, you have something? Oh, look, they've got Anathem now on Audible. Oh, now that's exciting.
Yeah, it's long. It's been out for a while.
I guess it came out day and date, didn't it? 32 hours and 30 minutes. So long that they actually had to have 4 narrators. 2 actually died during the recording, I believe.
Because of the union rules, of course, they have to record it all in one session, or else they have to pay the studio double.
That's right.
So it's like one of those 1920s dance competitions.
I loved that book so much. I really did. I might have to get that on audio and listen to it again. Anyway, there's a lot of good choices. Andy, do you want to throw one in to the mix, or do you want to save it for next week?
I do have a pick. If you want to save it for next week, I'll save it for next week. We seem to already have 2 really good ones.
We've got 2. I can't. We can't. Let's over. People are going to say, but you gave me too many choices. I can't choose.
Well, listener, that's one of the many problems you'll face when faced with the unending quality and breadth of content available on audible.com.
It's so true.
And with such a wide range of talented voice professionals reading it too, you'll almost want to kill yourself with all the choice. But don't because you'll miss out on those lovely, lovely Audible books.
Audible.com/MacBreak. Your chance to try it today.
We're not suggesting suicide. We really aren't. That's never the answer.
Never the answer.
Yeah. Unless you're Hitler, and I think you're not.
How come these Audible ads always degenerate into something? Isn't that Godwin's law that eventually all Audible ads will mention Hitler?
I don't know if you're responsible. Like maybe like Hitler's out there, like his brain's in a jar, and he's thinking of finally ending it. Okay, and I'm responsible for giving him the will to live. I don't think so. I don't want that in my conscience, Leo.
Audible.com/MacBreak. Alex, Lindsay, you're at NAB. You got a pick from NAB or just something more pedestrian?
I don't have a pick from NAB because I think that I'm going to stick with my iPad. And one of the things
it's hard not to pick stuff on the iPad, isn't it?
I know it's a whole new little area that we can talk about. So I actually want to pick 2 books to take a look at, but one that I just think is because I think that they point to. A lot of these, I think that the iBooks are going to be great for people who really like that book experience, but I've talked to a lot of people who are developing, and I think I've talked about this on the show, is that they really feel like if you have a big picture book, it's not really the best format for it. And so people are building their own apps. But one of the things I'm really interested in as we start to see books is books that start to break break the wall of what a book is. And one of the ones that I think is simple but very effective is Cat in the Hat. Have you seen Cat in the Hat?
No, I don't really have an occasion to buy it.
I have, well, on top of being a big Dr. Seuss, I grew up, obviously, all of us did, but I love Dr. Seuss. And so I got Cat in the Hat for my son so we can sit and, get Cat in the Hat. And all it needed to do was just change the pages and I would have been happy. But instead, what they added was what really, to me, started pointing towards the future of what's going to happen with books, just the beginning, which is you can, when you click on it, you got these little floating things. You can have it read to you. You can read it yourself. You can set it to autoplay, and it'll do all of those things. And but when you say you want to read it, read it. When you click on it, it actually sometimes when you flick it starts off simple. It just changes the words with the same photo. But then when you start moving on, it'll start doing zooms. So you see it zooms back, and then the text appears. So it makes it a little bit more of an interactive experience. Also, when you click on the books, it says books. When you click on the milk, it says milk.
Oh, that's neat.
The thing is, it's great. It's a great little experience that I can play with my son, and it's way more than a book, or it's becoming a fair bit more than a book. I think another one that I saw that I wanted to talk about was Alice.
I can't wait to get that. Yeah,
I got it, and I have to say it's a little gimmicky. It's a little gimmicky that it's got this little physics simulator that you can play with, and it's
also $9.
Right.
Although there's a free version, I guess
I would download the free version. My pick is for the free version because you can see the gimmicks and you can play with it. I'm not sure if it totally works. I'm not sure if I bought the regular one, but I have to say that both of these things point towards this idea of moving past just changing the pages. And I think this is just the beginning. We're going to start seeing these baby steps. We're going to see people take too many steps sometimes. But I'm pretty excited about books and about interactivity and about really changing that nature. Of course, Elements, which I think we talked about already, is just stunning. And so anyway, I just wanted to pick the
problem with these. My friend Jeff Jarvis on This Week in Google says it's just tarting up content. And Elements is a good example where you buy it, you play with it for a while, and then it's like, okay, now what?
Well, I think for someone not in school, it's not as big of a deal. But I think that for
somebody who's studying the periodic table of the elements, this would be.
When I showed this to a chemistry teacher, and she was like, she was buying the iPad so that she could
could do that. Yeah.
That she could show students. The only thing that's a bummer here is I don't know if it will be able to output. I think for teachers, what you want is to make sure that you can output that whole interface to a VGA. So they can you?
Hey, we meant to talk about this. Maybe Craig, what is the? I have the VGA adapter, but I just haven't played with it. What does it output to?
It's only Apple's limited the port as per usual. So it's only spitting out stuff that's when you're in presentation mode in Keynote, and when you're playing videos. But it's not.
So Elements, you couldn't use Elements on a big screen then.
Well, but
currently
I think
not. I was sort of speculating that they would include it with the Photos app, but they didn't. I think that would be the natural third use case for.
No, it does work with photos. It can't when you enter into slideshow mode, right?
Yeah. Oh, it does.
The trick with the external display is that it's supported by software, so it has to have a function that the developer of that app wanted it to support. So it's not going to automatically mirror what happens on your iPad directly to the screen.
So there could be an update to Elements that would make this display.
Yeah, right. So if Elements wanted to have a presentation mode or a teaching mode, they could definitely do that. But I don't believe that something as easy as mirroring is supported. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Craig.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but that is open in the SDK for people to do?
Apple tells me that it is an external device that they have to support directly, and they have to choose exactly the context in which it is supported. So that is not something they have to do a hack for, or do anything really weird with.
That's good to know.
That's awesome.
That's the reason why, like, if you are in the Photos app, the screen will be completely black until you start a slideshow.
Right.
In which case, it will be all your photos will go onto that screen in super high resolution.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's great.
It's a beautiful app. It's just
the YouTube app works that way too. That was the one. I mentioned one Whiskey Tango Foxtrot moment in my entire week of having it in advance, and that was those moments where you're like, well, of course this is going to be the great thing that I'm going to be using this for. So of course I know that this is going to work. This is going to work exactly the way I expect it to. But as a formality, of course I have to when I plug it into the VGA, I have to start up one of these movies viewing it just so I can see it in luxurious HD. What? Because I was trying to watch Up or Star Trek and iTunes protected content. And of course, I started up the movie and it told me this display is not authorized to play this content.
Wow.
Because VGA is an analog output, it will not allow it. Because, of course, I'm going to put in some alligator clips onto that cable and make sure that I try to pirate movie. Of course, it never would have occurred to Apple that someone's going to want to actually watch, the movie that they've just paid $20 for directly from their iPad onto the screen. That was just the dumbest thing ever. If it's unprotected content, it'll work just fine. So guess what I did? I downloaded an illegal version of
there you go.
Excuse me. Rather, I took my own legally purchased Blu-ray of Up. You put it on a PC that allows me to rip Bluray content in HD.
That's still illegal.
It's not. Well, in the Democratic Republic of Andy, it is. I mean, that's stupid. Why would I not have the expectation that if I have a VGA display that can drive HD video, that I'm still pissed off about it. I'm sorry.
So Alex, what do I do to make it do stuff?
There you go. Now swing. Now move your iPad. Move your iPad.
This will swing.
It's a little slow, but turn it like see. It's you can move further, but it's a physics simulator, so it's not animated.
Right.
Go to another page. There's a bottle, I think, on the next one. You can really is it the bottle or maybe
this is one of my favorite. Oh, look at that.
See.
So if I turn it upside down,
it'll bounce around. That one's not very good because it's too stable. Actually, it's hard to get it to fall. But the bottle tends to be.
And then there's this.
It doesn't. Here's the problem with the Allison. This is why I said it's a little gimmicky. Is it does this, but it doesn't let you. What you really want to do is touch that.
Right.
And the bottle falls, and if you roll your iPad around, the bottle will fall around. I just like the idea of being able to add things that you can play with it. So I like this as a thought. I'm not sure if I'm totally sold on it as a book.
It's kind of like a pop-up book but you have no. Yeah. I have to say it's beautiful though.
It is gorgeous. This
was my favorite book as a kid. So I'm
not sure what that one does.
It doesn't do anything. It's just kind of. It's just kind of in there, Alice in the Dormouse.
But I can imagine reading this to my kids or something and thinking that it was, funny.
Ooh, the blue pill or the red pill? Yeah, I mean, kids would love this. Well, but you know what? Kids would want to do it, though, and that's the thing.
That's the whole thing. Go back to the pills. I think that if you turn it upside down, because they all kind of are falling.
Yeah, so the dodo is offering her...
and you can...
and the dodo's there, and you can kind of have it flow around the dodo, and... Yeah, it's neat. I mean, hey, this is the free version, so you didn't spend anything for it. I don't know what you get with the paid version, $9 paid version, but that's pretty impressive.
I said the free version is definitely worth downloading just to see where they're going with it.
Bill. Yeah, I think there's an opportunity here. This is just the beginning.
Right. Anyway, those are my picks.
Cool. Craig, you got a pick for us?
I do, and at the risk of sounding like a corporate whore, I actually would like to pick the Yahoo Entertainment app for the iPad.
Yeah, it's one of the featured apps, so you're not alone on that.
Right, and what I find interesting, what I think is really great about it, is that it's following in with this whole argument that's been going on about web standards, HTML5 and Flash. This is all HTML5 and WebKit.
Oh, interesting.
So I think they did a great job. It was a Skunkworks project that the design team did here to get it out. They used a literal setting, which in design is usually anathema, something you don't want to do. But I think they actually pulled it off.
Like it's a TV screen, you're saying?
Yeah, it's literal.
Yeah.
But they did it in such a way that it actually was the first sort of naive literal interpretation of an interface that didn't completely irritate me. It actually sort of worked, and I think the iPad, is a part of that platform and that whole feeling part of it really made sense. But I think they did a wonderful job. It's
free.
It's free. It's really showing where we as Yahoo, but also just we as developers are going to go with web interfaces and how rich they can be. It is an app, but like I say, most of it is powered by WebKit and HTML5, and I think that's super impressive.
Yeah, in fact, we're already noticing a diminution of Flash sites as companies realize. I mean, after all, you want to work on these platforms. That's 85 million potential users on a mobile platform.
Or as a Virgin America user, I want to book my flight, which I now can do on my phone. While I'm traveling.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's really huge. And I think that for better or for worse, Apple has definitely dealt a death blow to Flash on the web. Andy Ihnatko, your pick. By the way, that's Yahoo Entertainment, and it is free from the iPad store.
Yes.
Andy, we don't hear you. We don't hear a word you're saying.
Sorry about that. I was playing around with a very, very audio-ish based application of the iPad. So I got two things that are sort of in the same family that are both sort of born from my inability to find a good case yet that I really like for the iPad, because one of the things are that if you're going to be traveling with this, you definitely want to be able to use it in different situations, including have it sort of stood up so you can type on it. There are two that are iPad.
Oh, you're breaking up again, Andy. Let me call you right back. Hold on a second. Just going to call you right back because you're going to die. You're going to die. He's going to die. He died. Let me call you right back, Andy.
Just wish I could share him some of my bandwidth here.
I know you've got so much.
I touched the end of the Ethernet cable here and got a little shock. So much.
I'm very interested because Eric Schmidt at a Los Angeles party this week said, yeah, we're doing an iPad, a slate, based on Android, not on Chromium OS.
Yeah.
So I thought it was very interesting. And I think if they do it right, it could be compelling.
I just think the challenge for them is standardization. I really think that they're going to have a hard time dealing with many versions of phones and many versions of pads and everything else in Android and not knowing what you can buy in the store.
Right.
You know, that's really going to work. I mean, I think that Apple's just dipping into
this is a pad Google is going to make. Google says we are going to manufacture our own.
I know, but what if someone else? There's other people making pads that are based on the Android.
Right, but Google. What if Google? I mean, Google will be the definitive implementation, right? If Google makes a compelling pad, you just buy it from Google, and you don't worry about these other guys.
Right.
Hello.
Hello.
I just realized how super long we are, so I'm not going to do two. I'm just going to do the one.
Yeah, we're like.
I'm sorry about that. Well, I just realized how super.
Not your fault. I haven't even gotten to CS5 yet. There was just a ton of stuff to talk about. It's not your fault. Okay, Andy Ihnatko, king of the wild frontier. What's your pick?
Sorry to bring my coonskin cap today. I still haven't found a stand that I really, really like that's iPad specific. I know that lots of them are coming. I've seen artist conceptions of them on various maker sites, but I haven't actually used one yet. So I've actually come up with a stopgap measure that I like so much that it might be part of my regular iPad travel kit. It is available at any good hardware store. It is a pair of black rubber stoppers. What I like about them is that I'm going to use my iRiser, part of my iRiser pad to show you. The cool thing about them is that they're rubber, so that they're grippy at the top and at the bottom. So what you do is you just simply set them down on your table or surface, and then you set down your iPad on top of it, and it holds it at a
perfect
angle, just like that. Also, it lifts it up just enough off the table so that if you're using it to just read books or view movies, that's also almost the exact right perfect angle for that. The other thing that I found out, because I thought that was just giving me a clever excuse for just putting this on the table when I'm giving my talks. The other thing is that, once again, they're grippy at the top, they're grippy at the bottom. So if you want to, I was listening to music later. I was listening to music all day with this as I was writing on my MacBook on my bed, and I just simply wanted to lean this against the windowsill so I could see what song was playing, and also reach over and change the programming if I want. All I did was if you just lean this against the windowsill or something, the bottom is just going to slide off because it's all this slick aluminum. Yeah. But with these 2 feet on the bottom of there, again, it simply grips it. And so now I can just simply lean it against the sill like that, and it just doesn't move at all. Even when I was reaching over and touching buttons and touching the home screen, it just does not move. It's very, very good. It has 2 other winning features. You can get them for if the hardware store has the ones made out of cheap rubber, they cost $5 for the pair. If they are made out of really good rubber like this, they're $10 a pair. But so it's not terribly expensive. But here's the really great thing about it. When you're not using it, it takes up this much space in your pocket or inside your bag. You're not dealing with this big chunk, this big Merriam-Webster's dictionary sort of folding collection of wires and gauges and things like that. It takes up next to no space. So I was using this giving my talks. I was using this in my room. I was using this on the tray table of the plane when I was flying over. And I really don't. I hate to tell everybody who's been spending thousands of dollars in these mock-ups and prototypes and marketing, but you have to. This is the solution for me to beat these two hardware store rubber stoppers, because they're useful for a whole bunch of different things, and they take up no space whatsoever when you're not using them. So that's my pick of the week.
Cool.
Wow, cool.
My pick of the week is yet another time waster. Actually, there's several. We mentioned a couple of things that probably people should take a look at on the iPad. Air sharing is very useful, very smart, very well implemented. It allows you via Wi-Fi, via WebDAV to log in to share files. It doesn't seem to see unfortunately, the folders that iWork is storing stuff in.
Yeah.
That's kind of a problem.
It's still a little early. They're gonna. I talked to a lot of these companies that are making these apps, and they're saying, "Please stick with us until 1.1 because we really had to get this done very quickly."
Yeah, I understand, and it's certainly worth getting, even as it is. It's a good way to transfer files to.
I love the iPhone version, so I'm really hopeful about the iPad version of Air sharing. Love it.
Goodreader, of course, we mentioned last week, is a must-have. And we were talking. I keep playing this We Rule game, and somebody in the chat room suggested. He said, "If you like We Rule, you'll love Godfinger." Alex, stay well away.
I'm already scared.
This is like Pocket God times a million.
When they were touring as the opening act for AC/DC 1985.
Love them.
Hardest metal I have ever heard in my life.
Yeah, big hair band. So Godfinger, and by the way, turn off the social networking features, because I've already accidentally tweeted and Facebooked way too much stuff about Godfinger. Here is your world. You have a little world. This is like Pocket God, only it's much better, really, because, yes, you're not really terrorizing them. You're trying to make them happy. So I've just got a new follower on the mountaintop. I'm going to bring them over to the totem. They're worshiping me. That gives me mana. Mana's good. With mana, you can go to the store. Actually, you can trade mana for gold, and then you can buy things in the store, including awe points, which are very handy to have. People, the more awe you have. Here's a campfire. Here's a farm. A little later on, when I get to level 5, I'll be able to buy a fountain, a medieval well, a barn. You can buy more followers. You can help your followers out. You can resurrect dead followers. Dude, watch this. I'm just going to make it rain.
Do they sacrifice to you? So you can.
I don't know what they do. I'm going to make it rain. Watch. So you press and hold the cloud till it charges up, and then you go like that, and it rains. And look, things sprout up. I am God.
Yeah, I'm concerned that the kids who grew up playing games like this, I'm gonna have to hire them and manage them and make them do things like that I want them to do after they've spent their entire formative year saying,
"You can't stop me. I'm all powerful.
I control my own world. I will not make photocopies for you or any other mortal."
I am a God. So if you played Populous or Black versus White, you'll be very familiar with the kinds of concepts here. But I think it's really nicely implemented. And this stays alive in the background. And yes, notifications up the wazoo. I turned them off because it tells you everything that's going on.
I know how God feels about all your prayers during football season.
You've got more.
I've got other things to do.
I don't want more awe. Thank you very much. Let me drop this follower on the fire here. You can work on that. Thank you very much. He's an unnamed worshiper. I presume at some point I'm going to get to name him. But he's just chilling here. And you can tap on and see how he's doing. Find out more information about him. It's got he's 48 minutes old. I can name him after a friend. Let me name him Andy. So actually these are the friends in the social network that this is part of, Plus. So I'm going to name him after Tom Merritt probably. But anyway, and I can go to the store and buy him some things if replenish his energy. I can have him work longer. I'm telling you, this is. Just don't call me for another couple of weeks, guys. I'm busy.
I'm just wondering if this is a pick or an intervention.
I'm crying for help. Look at more things are springing up on my little planet. I imagine after a while the planet gets even more sophisticated, but I just started.
It definitely looks addicting, which is why I'm just gonna stop at the gate.
Stay away. Yeah. This is called Godfinger, and it's free.
Wow.
Well, it's one of those things where they make money by selling you mana and stuff like that. I guess there's some ads in it, but not very many.
They make up for it in quantity.
See, See this I don't mind. This is a little ad, and maybe this is what the ads are going to look like. I guess it is on iAds. It's just a little ad. You tap there, and it doesn't. You don't exit the thing, but it brings out a larger page and that kind of thing. I think that's good. It's a little confused about its orientation.
I don't understand.
As are many of our listeners. All right. Sorry. All right, let me just put that away. So you see, it's you get the idea.
I get the idea.
Yeah, definitely a problem. But they're so cute, the followers.
I get the idea that you're going to be 45 minutes late for next week's tape.
What? Yeah, I wasn't paying any attention. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Godfinger! By the way, Steam is now out in beta. We were mentioning that Apple's going to have Steam for Macintosh users. Or not Apple. Steam is going to make this amazing PC gaming platform available. It is now in beta, and you can go there and sign up if you already have a Steam account or create a new Steam account. I haven't seen what games are on there yet because I really thought I should pay more attention to this show. We did not talk about CS5, but I'm going to make this a good thing because that gives you time to play with it, right?
Feature
I don't think
reduction.
it's shipping yet, is it?
Yeah, you can get it today.
If any of us have any time after having finished recording this 8-hour show.
The Magic Fill, lots of new features. I think you could get, I don't know, am I wrong? Can you not?
No, it's out.
It's out. That's what I thought. I thought this morning it came out. Shipping mid-May. Okay. But can you download it?
I don't know.
Maybe the demos?
Let's pretend it's not out because this is already a 2-hour show and counting. Thank you, my friends, for being here. It's Craig Syverson. Great to see you again.
Great to be here. Thanks so much, Leo, to be in such august company.
Yes, you can follow Craig at knowtech, KNOWTECH.tv.
Yes, yeah, these are the podcasts that Kenji Kato and John Foster and I are starting up again.
Oh, good.
So kind of resurrecting the old MacBreak tech.
Fantastic.
If you thought this show was long, just listen to us. We ramble for as long as we want on some very, very geeky subjects. So check it out.
Once again, I'm glad to see that you are creating the content because you're the king. I'm really glad. Oh, this is neat. I will be there.
It's audio for now.
Open, break, learn, fix, knowtech.com. Thank you, Craig.
It's like Foster World. It's John's world. He talks about what he wants to talk about, and I'm just there to subtitle it.
Sounds good. Yeah, sometimes he needs a little of that. Andy Ihnatko is with the Chicago Sun-Times, and you can read his stuff, including his voluminous iPad review there. He's also got a great website, cwob.com. Thank you, Andy, for being with us today.
Always a slice, Leo.
Always fun.
Else.
Always a pleasure. Mr. Alex Lindsay is at NAB. He's probably dying to get to the show floor. Watch coverage of NAB live streaming tonight at pixelcore.com. Click the NAB link, and the podcast, the video shows will be out, dozens of them, at pixelcore.tv.
And also the coupon for joining the Pixel Core, $50 off. That's basically half price. Is ending this week. So if you use MBW, you can. A lot of people did.
Good. Good.
Yeah. It was a lot of people. So anyway, if you use MBW, it is ending this week. So if you want to do it by Friday.
Fantastic. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. You can watch this show live if you got nothing else to do for an entire day. Every Tuesday, we start around 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern. It's 1800 UTC at live.twit.tv, and we go until we can't hold it any longer. You can also watch streaming versions on YouTube at youtube.com/twit. Look for the MacBreak Weekly channel, and download the podcast, both audio and video, from iTunes and all the other locations for your iPod and other ad devices. Just search for Twit in the iTunes store to find us. It's TWIT. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Now, you guys, you get back to break. Work time is over. Wait a minute.